Hey, everybody, this is Johnny Beane. I saw that.
Almost got it. I almost
Get it
got
out of the
out
way.
of
Get
there.
it out of the way. It's all good. It's all good. Hey, this is Johnny Beane, and we're live. It's 8:09 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:09 Pacific. It's is it March? May 1st, 2020. Welcome, everybody. Jay Hannon is in the house.
Yep, you almost got me. It wasn't a pick. It was a scratch.
Ah! Yeah. Dave Nesdahl.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
Hey, good to see you, man.
Same here.
Good to see you. Man, you just want to get into it?
Yes, we have a lot of work to do.
Wow. Jay, who's on the show?
We got Billy Sheehan. Is there really how do you introduce one of the greatest bass players of all time?
Just like that.
Bring him in.
Yes. Let's bring him in. Billy.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing, man?
Doing great. I'm here in my garage, playing my bass. I have my lamp out here in the garage, so it's not that it's loud, but it's just kind of nice to get away from the house and come out here. And behind me is the my driveway in the back, so I throw peanuts and sunflower seeds out, and the squirrels and chipmunks come and they watch me play.
That's awesome.
That's one way to get an audience during this crazy time,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our neighborhood is pretty quiet to start with, but now it's almost spooky, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're in Tennessee, right?
Yes, sir. We moved to Nashville a little over 2 years ago, and we really love it here. It's fantastic. We got really lucky. We got a great deal on an amazing place, so we're very, very grateful.
That's awesome. I love Nashville. Been there a couple times, and every time I go there, I don't want to leave.
Yeah, it's really great. I was in LA for 32 years, and it was amazing. But in the last 10 years or so, it's fallen apart. It's sad to see. I still love LA. I love the people there, and I love that city. But it was time to move along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in Santa Cruz, by the way.
Oh, very nice. That's a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Is the echo okay, gentlemen?
Where'd it go?
There are times when it's there, and there are times when it's gone. So
I could try putting some headphones on if you want me to.
Okay. Yeah, we could try that.
See what happens if I do that. So let me know if the mic stops.
Okay.
You want me to run through a roll call real fast?
Yeah.
All right, we got John BL 5150. Mr. BHB Jr., I believe that's Bruce. John Bulware, Joe Hervey 84, Jeff T, 5150 JT. I think that's the first time I've seen that name. Thanks for joining us. We got Ben Coombs, Eduardo Marino Porto. I know I don't say your name as cool as John does. I apologize. William Spruce, Kevin Cochelle, Kenji Sato. Man, there's a lot of people in here right now. We got 110 watching already.
Excellent.
124.
100. Well, that's right. I'm not including Facebook.
Facebook and YouTube.
If I read everybody's names, we're going to be here for like 15 minutes. So, everybody, thanks for joining us. We're going to get to some great questions in a bit, and let's rip it. Let's go.
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Billy,
Right. Yes,
Billy.
sir.
First off, let me just say thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. And again, I've met you. It's been a few times over the years, but the one that really sticks out for me was when I met you guys. Mr. Big came to Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's where it started.
In 1992.
Yes, sir.
I want to say. I was hanging out. I had a friend of mine that was a DJ at the local radio station called Q102, and his name is John the Animal Terry.
Know him well.
And I spent the whole day hanging out with him and following you guys around town. Basically, I skipped school.
We're contributing to the delinquency of a minor. We got served for that. No, John Terry was instrumental in making "To Be With You" a hit. He was the first guy in the country that started playing it, and what a I wish everybody someday has a hit record because it changes your life. So we're forever grateful to John and everyone involved in that. He was amazing. And from there, it took off, and we ended up being number one in like 14 countries around the world. And
it doesn't hurt that that song is an amazing song.
Yeah, it was a great song. If I say so myself, not to be self-aggrandizing, I didn't write it, so I can say that. But great song, and Eric sang it amazingly. And everywhere we go, somebody, hey, Billy, hold on, little girl. You know, is that in New Delhi somewhere? You know, they know it. It's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's too funny, man.
Matter of fact, I just got a movie. A guy made a short movie thanking me for answering his email from Mumbai, India, and it was all about because he loved the song, and I answered him, and through the years, then he wrote a story about how surprised he was, and I guess he's an actor, singer in India. It was very touching. It brought tears to my eyes. So beautiful. So we're like I said, I wish everybody could have a hit record because man, it's really does change your life for the better.
Well, did you guys know that he was going to start playing that song, or he just did it and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
No, I think somebody might have prompted him, but it wasn't up to us. We had a great manager at the time, Mr. Herbie Herbert, one of the founding fathers of the music business as we know it. And he put Journey together. He was on stage at Woodstock carrying Carlos Santana's Marshall cabinet.
I've got questions for you mentioning his name as well.
What's that?
I have questions for you tonight mentioning his name as well.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah. And he actually made it happen. So I'm not sure whether or not he coordinated John Terry to play it, but Atlantic Records was their record company. They were resistant to just about everything. And sadly, a lot of great people at Atlantic, but a couple of people at the top that just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And they thought that they flew a guy into Lincoln, Nebraska to see if it was actually being played and if that was selling in the stores, because there's a couple factors they watch: your airplay, requests, and retail reaction. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't believe it. They thought that we had friends in Nebraska, in Lincoln, that were going to the store and buying the record and calling the radio station to request it. Then after I heard that, I thought, you mean we could have cheated like that?
Great idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. If I would have known we could have cheated, I would have had 100 people there buying records every day. But so they actually sent a guy in to check out to see if it was real, and it was. And so then they still didn't get behind the record hardly at all until the very, very end, sadly. But in the end, we got in there. We got the #1 spot at Billboard for 3 weeks. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because I remember you guys came to town, and you guys did a signing at a guitar store.
Yeah.
In the morning.
Right.
And so I skipped school, and I was hanging out with John, and then hanging out with you guys at this guitar store, and then you guys went from there to a record store.
Yeah, there was
a record store in Lincoln, Nebraska at the time, maybe still, called Pickles Records.
That sounds familiar. Man, that's amazing.
And so I followed you guys over there, and then got you guys. I've got a signed poster from you guys still.
Oh, great.
But I remember after you guys were done. I remember you guys were done signing. You guys are walking around, and maybe they let you guys take like whatever you want or whatever, because you guys were like grabbing tapes and CDs, and I remember
that was kind of a granted thing with record stores. When you did an in-store, they'd let you take. Sometimes they would just let you go nuts, and so I didn't want to overdo it usually. So I grab a couple things, but I've been in bands with guys that just went crazy, walking out with armloads and stuff. And, he's up on that a bit, but yeah, generally they let us have some free stuff.
I remember I was walking through the record store, and I saw Eric Martin, and he was standing there looking at tapes, and at the time they were playing "To Be With You" over the speakers, and I'm standing there next to him, and he turns and looks at me, and he's singing along to the song, and I remember thinking, man, this is so cool,
right on,
you know. And then that night you guys did a concert at the university, Lincoln, Nebraska, and it was $12 to get into this. And
wow!
So I remember I went to it. And I remember Paul Gilbert had a glow in the dark Ibanez guitar. So in between the songs, he would be like flashing the guitar around.
Disembodied guitar body floating around the stage.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
that was a great time. Mr. Big was my. After I got out of David Lee Roth, there was a band I put together, and it was my shot and got very, very lucky to find 3 guys that were so talented and so wonderful, and it was an incredible experience.
You hit a grand slam home run with that.
Thank you very much.
I mean, your whole career is a grand slam home run. It really is. It's pretty crazy. I'd like to start from the very beginning, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Well, I'd like to know, do you come from a musical family, and what types of music was playing in your house when you were young?
No, nobody in my family played any music, but my mom was a big fan. When she was a teenager, she actually had a book with everybody's signature in it from the old days, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, all those people. I think her mom threw it out one time because she figured she's not going to ever want this, and she threw it away. So that was the end of that. But my mom was a big music fan, so there was always great music playing in the house from Ella Fitzgerald, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Bobby Darin, great old school stuff. So I was very lucky to be exposed to good stuff right away. Great singers and great bands. But my dad was a recitationist. He had a lot of regular blue collar jobs that he worked, and then he worked for Bell Aerosystem for a while in his later years on a Minuteman III missile program.
Oh wow,
pretty interesting. But as a young man, he was a recitationist, so he'd go around, travel around the country, in the area, local area, telling stories and reciting poems as a kind of entertainment. So I'm kind of a wannabe storyteller myself. So some of the things that have happened to us or gone on through the years, they're part of my repertoire of stories, real things that actually happen. And we always have a couple of glasses of red wine and the stories start coming hot and heavy. We always have a ride with that. So I got that storytelling from my dad to some degree. So that helps me a lot of times, I think, when I had to explain something or speak in public and things like that. But the music on its pretty much was just my thing. No one else in my family.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Well, did you get that box of red wine I sent you? Because we were ready for some stories.
Oh, was that you who said it? Yeah, you don't get as many stories with beer, but the red wine, they come roaring out. I don't know what it is.
Awesome. That's cool. I've got a bunch of questions. So everyone, please ask as you need to ask.
Yeah, and anything's legal. I'm really lucky to have incredible amount of friends around the world, all over the place, and I answer all my own email and all my own messages. Matter of fact, I always get pissed off when people say, "This isn't really you," and I go, "Bro, come on, everything's verified, blue dot, everything. I answer everything, So if they don't think it's me. If you don't think it's me, then go right to somebody else." But I really love to communicate with people in that manner, and I'm always happy to answer whatever I can, especially help my fellow musicians out. And then a lot of times when you're in a situation with people listening to your music, it's an emotional thing for a lot of people, and I've gotten some touching communications, and also people that were in trouble, and whatever I can. I'm no psychologist, but I do what I can to give as positive a message as possible and try and help them through what they're going through. So I really do enjoy that. And that's I've never been really money motivated, but for me, that's really a payment for what I've done, and how, to see people out there. And I've got a collection of emails that will probably never be seen until I'm long gone, but quite touching.
That's awesome. Well, you're a household name, really. So it is what it is. It's just you're pretty great. I have a question. During the early days of your career, Buffalo, New York had a very prolific music scene. Aside from developing your extraordinary musical chops, what other lessons did you learn from playing in the scene that benefited you moving forward?
Just about everything. I'm telling you, playing in a band, playing in bars and little clubs, in our early years was the best help for me. And even later on, when I went to LA, you could tell the LA bands from the East Coast bands, because the East Coast bands were playing every single night. They had it down. The LA bands were showcasing in a rehearsal hall and would do one gig every couple of months for a record company. And the LA bands would get up on stage and they'd have their back to the audience and something's feeding back and they don't know how to introduce. The East Coast bands would come out and bang, bang, bang. They would hit these songs and it would be amazing, exciting, and entertaining. So you really learn the entertainment business from being in clubs. It's true with comedians too. It's true with almost every form of entertainment. If you learn it in a difficult situation, it helps you later on. And we used to play a place called the Barrelhead in West Seneca, New York, Tallis Tuesdays. We started Tallis Tuesdays there. Our first Tuesday, there was I think 3 waitresses, 4 people, the bouncer, and 2 bartenders. That was it. Then later on, it became the biggest night of the week in Buffalo. Tallis Tuesdays was just lines down the street, and we got that way because there was no dressing rooms. We'd step off the front of the stage. The stage was only this high, so we get done with the show, with a set, step off the stage, and sit down and talk with everybody and hang out.
That's the way to do it.
There's no separation there, So oh, we're not crazy about that new song you're doing. Really, you don't like it? And then I got so later we'd end up dropping it. So, hey, did you hear the new Robin Trawl record? Yeah, Day of the Eagle. Let's go. So we could go home and learn Day of the Eagle, come back next week. They'd be all happy. So really put your thumb on the pulse of what was going on, what people liked and what they didn't. And it was really a great lesson to learn to not separate yourself out from the audience. And to this day, unfortunately, a lot of bands, we have to do this. You got to do the paid meet and greet, which I don't like at all. But we just aren't making the kind of money we used to make, and the expenses are high, and the crew's got to be paid, and the bus has to be paid, and very little of that ever goes in the band's pocket. It's a lot of expenses to tours. But I always tell people, if you can't afford the meet and greet, I'm always out by the bus afterwards. I'll sign anything and take photos and we'll hang out, So we always do my free meet and greet after the show.
That's awesome.
We got to be careful not to say that too loud for the meet and greet people. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be. But this is a way to get around it, because that's kind of how I grew up. And then just musically playing every single night. We played 21 shows in a row, 21 nights in a row. One time, we played 3 shows in one day. Downtown Buffalo for the lunch crowd, packed up, went to Niagara Falls to play after a Buffalo Bills exhibition football game, packed up, and then went to the Club Lakewood, which is a club in Niagara Falls, New York, and played 3 full shows in a single day. So that gives you training you can't get from watching YouTube videos or sitting around in your bedroom playing. Up on deck, hitting it hard, sweating, pounding it out, and it was invaluable. I owe everything to that.
Now I know why your P bass looks the way it does.
Beaten senseless. I had to make a decision to be in the garage or in the other room. The other room was all the basses. I should have gone in there. So next time.
No, it's okay.
Next time we'll do that.
It's totally
next time.
good. Yeah, I love the fact that there's a next time.
Next time.
I have one more question, then we'll get to other people real quick. In 1980, and forgive me, it's going to be a Van Halen question. In 1980, Tallis was booked, I think, by Premier Talent to open for Van Halen. Do you remember which member of Van Halen you met first? Tell us about what it was like to be on a very first gig with them.
Well, this I haven't told the story much. This is kind of freakish. Again, the reason I don't tell is it sounds a little self-aggrandizing. I apologize for that. But so we're there at sound check, and we got our things set up, and Van Halen already did theirs, and they're off in their dressing room where we're down some little dressing room with this might have been Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It was our first show with them or something like that. And we're in a dressing room that's kind of L-shaped, and I'm sitting where I can see the hallway to the door, but no one else in the room can see the door. And they told me later, man, you look like you saw a ghost. And we're all sitting there talking, and I look over, and the door opens, and Ed Van Halen walks in. And I'm like, hey, man. I don't know what to say. And the first thing he said, I swear to God, he goes, which one of you guys is Billy Sheehan? me, it's me, right here, And I guess I had worked with Michael Schenker in 1978, and Denny Carmassi was the drummer. Denny's the original drummer from Montrose.
Mhm.
And I went there to record with Michael Schenker. It didn't work out in the end. Denny and I came home, but I guess maybe Denny spoke with Ed or something, or he heard about me. I don't know how, but he was the nicest guy in the world, though. He came in and said hi to us all, and talked to us and hung out. It was fantastic, but it was hilarious. The first thing is, which one of you guys is Billy Jean? So I'm still not exactly sure how he knew who I was or whatever, but it's very flattering.
Well, I mean, after watching your sound check, he was probably blown away by it.
Well, no, a lot of times sound check in a situation like that is plug in. Does it work in? Okay, done. Say, can I check the monitor? No, there's no time. Can I? No, you can't. No. Can I? No. So it's called a throw and go. You throw it up and you go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it happens in a lot of situations. Later on, they were so kind to us. Patrick Whitley was their tour manager, a great guy. They let us do sound checks, and then they also let us take encores. And for an opening act, it was almost unheard of. Pretty amazing.
That's great.
Really wonderful people.
Yeah. That band is they're amazing, amazing stuff. Awesome. All right, someone else's turn. I don't want to take up all your time.
I just got a funny question from Caleb, our buddy Caleb Rappaport, and he said, "I'm just going to read it." He goes, "My question: I was there the night the power went out for 20 minutes plus in Los Angeles during the Eat 'em and Smile tour. He wants to know, 1, what was Dave's reaction? 2, how many people got fired? And 3, did anyone suspect foul play from the Van Halen?"
Number one was what was the number one?
Was Dave? How pissed was Dave?
I didn't see him immediately after the show, so I think he was in another room, and there might have been some yelling going on. I don't know. I don't think it was sabotage, but I remember one of the problems with that tour was we had so many lights. I think they won a bunch of Guinness records for how many lighting things. Matter of fact, there are arenas around the country. The hanging points they have on the ceiling of the arenas, the rigging points, are rated at a certain amount of pounds or tonnage. Yeah. And we've damaged about 8 arenas with that tour because of that rig was so huge, that giant lighting rig. Wow. So I think also the its power requirements were so high that we just blew some fuse out or circuit breaker somewhere. So I don't think it was anything, but well, I remember being heartbroken. Okay, LA, we're home. This is what? It's just suddenly the whole place went down. But that tour generally though was a blast, and
I was there.
We had such a great time. It was there's lots of stories for that one.
It was an amazing tour. Yeah.
Right on.
Man.
I probably get an email message every day about that album or tour. At least one, sometimes.
You're going to get one now. After Dave left Van Halen, legend has it that you were the first member to be selected for Dave's new band. And he envisioned Steve Stevens on guitar. Did you ever get to play with Steve Stevens in the development of Eat 'em and Smile?
No, not then, but later on I did. After I left Dave, Ted Templeman from Warner Brothers, he was the Van Halen producer and produced Eat 'em and Smile. Got in touch with me and wanted to help me. He's a very, very kind man, very wonderful man. And he said, he was working with Steve Stevens, and he said, "Will you guys get together?" So I got together with Steve, and we started to put a band together. Never quite worked out for whatever reason, but he's an amazing guy and great player. But yeah, that was Dave's original interest. And at the time, I don't think Steve was interested in leaving Billy Idol. I don't blame him. I love him, and Billy Idol is so awesome.
Yeah, that's like peanut butter and jelly. That
I know. It's so perfect. So when that fell through, I told Dave, I know another Steve. And that was Steve.
Steve grew up right in my backyard, basically. I live on Long Island, right near Steve.
Amazing. And I found out we had to go pick him up at his house. He stayed at his parents' house.
Yeah.
They sent a car service for us, and he was on the way, so we picked him up. I had no idea, because Steve and I have a lot in common, a lot of strange, odd things in common, even though we didn't live anywhere near each other. He's down in New York City. I was up in Buffalo. But the street he lived on has the same name as the street I lived on in Buffalo.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool.
Kind of cool.
No, that's listen. Having you on the show is just blowing my mind. So.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you, bro. All right. Who else has a question for me?
Oh, there's a lot of questions in the chat.
All right, let's look for
It's
some.
going crazy.
It is going crazy. I'm trying to keep tabs with it, and I have. Before we can get to that, I just want to give you a quick, funny, what I think is funny story of my childhood with, with Mr. Big and stuff like that. My brother was in a band in high school. Literally, all they did was play songs off the first Mr. Big record. They were good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying that they like all the time. Like "Take a Walk" was when they started playing that. That was like my favorite. I was like, oh my god, it's so cool, So, long story short, Christmas of '92. My cousin Sean, he got a bass guitar kind of soon before Christmas time. Well, what does he ask for Christmas? Is the Mr. Big bass tablature book.
Okay.
Needless to say, he quit playing bass soon after he got that because it was just like, I remember him like trying to play stuff, and he's like, "Dude, do you know what? Like, do you know how to?" I'm like, "Man, you're on your own." We pretty much gave up.
Well, I always say, and I believe it's honestly true, is nothing I do somebody else can't do. It just takes time. And that's why, for me, I'm an ear player. I don't know how to read tab or notation. I don't really know. I can figure things out. Fortunately, I got guys I can call and ask, like for, hey, Steve, what chord is this? So it's a diminished seventh with an 11th, something. But learning by ear is actually a lot more encouraging because right away you start to hear the feedback of, this is starting to work, this is starting to actually function. And I've actually sat down with young kids who want to learn how to play guitar, and they're discouraged and bummed out and pissed off on scales. From where? From this book of scales. I go, what's blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go to YouTube. You hear it? Okay, here it is. Check it out. First chord's a G, and then
it's just like you just, whoa, things start making more sense and you're hearing
exactly.
things.
Yeah.
Now, later on, I wish somebody would have taken me aside and had me learn the proper theory and notation and all that. I wish I knew more about that. I'm always trying to learn more about it, but unfortunately, I've gotten along really well with my ear, so I've neglected that.
Well, I think the most important thing.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely enjoy playing guitar, then reteach them the theory stuff. But if you're teaching theory, you're teaching theory from day one.
And I've done a lot of things like the School of Rock and Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And I do a lot of clinics and seminars and masterclass type thingies. And young kids, they've got all this enthusiasm, and I see it crushed out of them on a regular basis. I try to rebuild. Like dads will come to my clinic and bring their kids, and they had given up long ago, but they want their kid to, get buddies in the garage on Sundays, and they got a keg of beer and they're playing again, So
yeah, sure.
Try to reestablish that.
I'd love to see you on a Vi Academy. I think it would be genius to have you on one of Steve's academies.
I'd love to do it. Yeah, Steve and I love him like a brother, and we've been very close friends for a long time. And Steve Vi, Brett Tuggle, the keyboard player as well. We're all still very good friends.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So we're getting some buffering issues. I got some messages rolling in.
I got a question in the chat from Keith Michael. It's not a question. He says, "Hello, Billy. Your class personified is into a message from a fan is highly unusual. I still have that email and I cherish it."
Beautiful. Well,
it's all it is. It's 2 minutes.
Thanks a lot. I'm glad you liked it. Thanks for being there. And I mean that. And you see what kind of change of Apollo just played in LA at the Roxy last January. And I came outside just to talk with a couple of people on the Sunset Boulevard. There's people walking around. I think it was and I go, "You're a producer?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm with ABC." And he named the show, and I don't want to. It was a real motivational thing and everything. So big I was, but a TV producer who's producing a show on ABC.
That's got to feel good.
Just by doing a little thing like that.
Accessible for a celebrity, someone to become, like to text you. I'm happy to be your friend, but I don't talk to my family this much.
No, the territory. If I'm not in the mood, or if I'm not up for it, or if I'm in the middle of hell for some reason, whatever, I stay inside. I'll back up, but it's important to me. And the reason is and it's not PR, and it's not public relations bullshit, but everything I own and everything I have came from somebody buying a T-shirt, a ticket, or
Perfect
even
way to look at it.
you
Absolutely.
bought a CD, even. I don't owe you anything. I think that's important. I do it
Sometimes,
because I choose to.
sometimes you're not even because they have a phone and they're taking video of the whole concert. They have that for the rest of their life. You know, so they've got ahead.
Yeah, which I don't mind, but it's distracting. And I know I play with this band called the Beane worldwide.
Wow.
Jesus.
They're just gigantic. They play in 75, 80, 90, 100,000 feet soccer arenas, sold out every show. Unbelievable. And they've got a huge camera crew. There's about 12 full-on camera stations and 12 cameramen every single night shooting the show for the video screens. Giant. The biggest production. Took a night off and had a few substitutes, and they're watching the show. And I'm like, wait, don't you guys, you see the show every night? He goes, no, we're working the camera. We're not going to really chance to see anything.
Right.
So I say to people that hold the phone up, bro, you're not going to watch it. You know, you're going to watch video. It's horrible. You're not going to want to see it. Put it down and enjoy the show. It's going to be great. Let's have a blast, you know? So that's my only complaint about it. And other than that, when people put the light on for video, and they're blinding me on the.
That's terrible.
When you think about the people filming the concert, right? It used to be, you know, for bootleggers and stuff, so you understand why they're doing it. But now, you know, all these people in the crowd. What's the reason?
There's nothing. You can't 3D Oculus Rift that. You know, you can't. It's not going to be the same. You know, so it's. I think it's I'd like to see people with the cameras on. If you want to put them up, you're still my friend.
Like maybe during a special part or something. It's like, hey, I got to send this to my my wife who's home. I'm with my girlfriend here, but you know, I got to send this video to my wife of a certain part. You know,
hope I ain't a wide angle lens.
Let me just say really quickly to everybody, we're getting messages saying that the YouTube video is crashing, and that has to do with YouTube itself. But if you guys can hear me, jump over to Facebook because the Facebook video is fine. It's the same thing.
Yo, Johnny, people are blaming you, man. It's like it's your fault.
Yeah,
I know.
How dare you?
No, they'll blame me. Trust me.
So, Billy, you and I forgot to mention. If I don't mention it now, my friend's going to kill me. Our friend's going to kill me. We have a mutual friend that you play in a band with in New York, the Road Crew, Joey Jenkins.
Yeah, Joey, the greatest.
Yeah, he had mentioned to me. He said, "Make sure you tell Billy I said hello." So,
what a wonderful guy.
Hello from Joe.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I'll drop him a text after we're done.
Yeah, please do. So I have another question. Can you tell us exactly how you met Pat Torpy? I heard it was during a vocal session during Skyscraper.
Exactly. I had a meeting scheduled at Dave's office, and things weren't going too well to start with because I was really not happy with Skyscraper, and we received a bunch of things, instructions that we really didn't want to comply with. Like we received the order more from management, not from Dave, more from management that the band won't be doing any interviews on this tour. No magazine, no nothing. You know, you guys are just the band. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, geez, I got endorsement people and ads to shoot and all kinds of stuff that I've been doing for years before this. I got to stop all that. So we were all kind of bummed out because we love Dave and we love that band. So I had a meeting scheduled that day later on. So early in the day, I met with Brett Tuggle, the keyboard player, who had two other friends that he knew sang. We're going to all sing the background vocals for all the Skyscraper songs. So when you hear it live, they're sampling. And I thought, we got to sample the vocals? Can't we sing it? So, strike two. So Pat Torpy shows up with another guy, Dave Amato, who plays with the REO Speedwagon.
REO Speedwagon, yeah, sure.
Dave is great, a great voice.
Amazing guitar collection, too.
Yeah. And so as we're there, I'm looking across. It's myself, Pat Torpy, singing his ass off. Dave and Brett Tucker saying, "This could be the band right here." To heck with everything else that's going on. So that's when I first met him. We all sang. So myself, Pat, Dave Amato, and Brett were on the vocals that you heard if you went to the live show. And I'd never before used fake vocals. And with Mr. Big, we never did. We always got accused of it, though, which I was very proud of.
Yeah.
We'd be in a rehearsal room and the singer wasn't there yet. So myself, Paul Gilbert, Pat Torpy would sing all the background harmonies for everything along with practicing the song. So you'd hear no lead vocal and just suddenly bursts of effect. And people would go, what are you using? What do you mean? What sampler? I go, we're not using a sampler. No, for your vocals. No, we're singing it. Let's get out of here. Go, come on in. And we get into Green to the 60s Mind, and all the other stuff we played. And see, sing. That's not that hard. I'm not a great singer by any further stretch of imagination, but I can hit the note, and we do it together. We got some vocals. So that's how I met Pat initially. Then I went to see him play at a NAMM show. It was amazing. Had a meeting with him. And then I went out to take Paul Gilbert with me to Madame Wong's, a club in LA, long gone, because the Knack were playing and Pat was filling in for the drummer. Mm-hmm. So I went there with Paul. I said, Paul, you're gonna dig this guy. He's really great. So the waitress came over and took our drink orders, and we're just having a little small talk with her. We said, yeah, we came to see the band tonight. And unrehearsed, she goes, oh, you guys got to love the drummer. He's really great. So I thought, see, Paul, I told you. So Pat came in, first rehearsal, Paul, myself, and Pat. It's the moment he sat down, I knew he was the guy. Mm-hmm. Pretty amazing.
He's one of those drummers that when you think about like the 80s and early 90s, like hard rock, and even some of the glam bands, a lot of the drummers I feel like weren't the uber talented guys, but you had bands like Winger with Rod Morgenstein,
right,
Mr. Big with Pat, and there wasn't that many bands that had drummers that were just like, whoa, Yeah.
When I go see a band, the drummer, as a bass player, it's all about bass and drums. The drummer's the guy I'm watching, most more than anything. And Pat and I would rehearse before a tour, and we'd run the whole set, just bass and drums, alone in a rehearsal room, and go through it all day long, 3 or 4 days, maybe 5 days straight. And so I would know every move he was doing, every little nuance and ghost note and pickup. I knew what was happening, so I could align my bass notes to that. And then you add guitar and then vocals to that, you got this monstrous thing. Build on a 20 inches of concrete foundation. That building is gonna stand tall. So that was an essential thing, and Pat was a grand master at it. On top of being one of the nicest, sweetest, most wonderful guys, incredible husband to his beautiful wife, and an amazing dad to his wonderful son. And it was just a very sad situation to lose.
It's definitely going to be missed.
Absolutely.
And Jay, it's funny that you mentioned Rod Morgenstein in the same sentence, because when unfortunately when Pat passed, I thought, well, not that Rod would be a great guy to replace him, because you don't replace anyone. There's no replacement.
Yeah.
But I thought that Rod Morgenstein would be a great person to maybe try, to be in that band. I thought he would be a good match for that band.
Yeah, ironically, before Mr. Big came together, I did speak with Rod about possibly doing a band. So, oddly enough, you picked up on that.
Yeah. They're very similar in the way they play.
Yeah, a lot of finesse, a lot of nuance, not a lot of grandiose things, but it's stuff that when you got the headphones on at night and you're listening, man, holy cow! Yeah, all kinds of things are going on.
I think Pat and Rod have the amazing ability to, like you said, that type of music. The drummers weren't going balls, bananas and stuff like that, but they had the ability to do these sneaky, slick fills in places. You're like, oh shit, did you hear that?
Yeah,
and it's little things like that. When you can do that as a drummer and not overplay, but still get your licks in.
They're both great at that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So now that we're talking about Mr. Big, when you, Pat, Paul, and Eric got into the room for the first time together to play music, do you remember some of the earliest songs you guys played together?
Yeah, it was at the Alleyway Studios on Vineland in North Hollywood. I remember because they had all the concert T-shirts up on the wall, this huge room, and it was just covered with concert T-shirts from every band you could imagine. And we sat there and we worked on Eric brought Big Love and Rock and Roll Over. He wrote them on piano, which I thought was really cool because it gave it a different feel, having a rock band do a version of a song that's written on piano. I thought it was, so I still to this day love those two songs very much.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the first songs we played before Eric got there, it was just me, Pat, and Paul. And Pat had heard about Paul Gilbert, but he wasn't sure about him. And he thought, oh, he's probably just this shred guy and he doesn't know any songs.
Wow.
But Paul knows a billion songs, which is what sets Paul apart from so many shred guys. And first thing we did was the outfield. I don't want to lose your love tonight.
Love it. Love it.
Just an idea. And then we did Midnight Rambler by the Stones.
Yeah.
And anything by Zeppelin, Paul knew, and the Beatles forever, every Beatles song.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought would be the first thing you'd say is, well, we played, Lady Madonna or whatever.
Yeah,
I thought it would be a Beatles song because I've seen Paul in his Beatle act. Like he with, he's just using really old, very inexpensive, cool guitars with it. He's not using anything flashy. He's just playing Beatles songs as Paul would play Beatles songs. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a great time in those early days. And Mr. Big, like I said before, I mentioned Herbie Herbert. He was our manager, and once I knew he was involved, I slept much better every night. He was just he made everything happen for us. He's really responsible for the band's success.
Well, that you just answered my next question.
Sorry.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just for the people in the chat, the question was, how important was Herbie Herbert? How instrumental was he in making this all-star band?
Well, I put the band together. I got Paul. Paul, I kind of knew. He used to come see me in Tallis when he lived in Pittsburgh. I remember this young kid, because the stage, again, was only about this high. And one kid was standing there, like right there, while I'm playing. Who is this kid? And I found he's a guitar player. He's supposed to be really good. Okay. So later on, I think we had his band open up for us one time. And who's that guitar player? That's that kid that was saying, oh, okay. So that was Paul Gilbert. So I knew him already, and I knew Pat. And I was looking for a lead singer. And Mike Varney is a famous guy at Shrapnel Records. He found, he brought Yngwie to America. It was my first major publication in Guitar Player magazine was through a Mike Varney article. And so he sent me a couple of guys and tapes and said, I'm not hearing it. I'm not feeling it. Then one day he just sent me, wait, I got a guy for you. We used to, over the phone, play songs over the phone all the time. He goes, check this out. And I go, who is that? He goes, it's Eric Martin. I go, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Steve Marriott, Paul Rogers, that soulful thing over a rock band. That's what I love. That's what I'm into. So sure enough, that's how it started. And Herbie had been involved with Eric's career prior to that. So I went up to Herbie's office to meet Eric and meet Herbie at the same time. And then Herbie said, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it. Let's put the band together and I'll be the manager. I said, okay. And Herbie, there's a lot of legends surrounding him. I might be wrong on this, but I believe Herbie was the guy who years and years and years and years ago said, why don't we sell T-shirts at the show with the band's name on them? I went to see Hendrix. There's no T-shirts for sale. Went to see Johnny Winter, and 10 years after, no T-shirts for sale. Merch came later, and I believe Herbie is one of the founding fathers of that and founded a company called Winterland, which is one of the biggest merch companies in the world now.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of things that were what we know as the music business, or have known over the last 4 decades. Herbie was very much responsible for.
Yeah, that's one of the best things that happened to touring bands was, the merch station. So
yeah, that's pretty much what they live on: ticket sales and merch.
Yeah,
thank goodness.
Well, now the labels are starting to take a chunk of the the younger bands that are signing labels now. Like they're kind of like they
smell money,
take a chunk of that money,
and a hunk of everything else.
Yeah,
it's sad to see.
It's a shame.
Right
on. Johnny, you want to chime in for a second?
Yeah. Okay, it looks like YouTube is good now.
All right.
People are saying the stream looks good. Let's see. Who is this? I'm getting text messages here. There was a rumor that Richie Kotzen was going to be fronting Soundgarden. Is that true?
I don't believe so. No. I know Richie really well. I'm sure I would know that if it's the case.
What are you just getting random questions now?
No, that was
fire away.
I heard Billy
Yeah,
wears
20
his
and throw
right
him at
shoe
me.
on his left foot.
What's that?
Just random questions,
I have an extra toe on my left
Yeah.
foot.
That's. I heard Yamaha's making a new Billy Sheehan guitar.
Well, they're doing a 30-year anniversary of the Attitude bass, but they're doing it to make it look like my original P bass, which this is based upon. So it's sunburst finished, tortoiseshell pickguard like my old P bass. And the old P bass had a big chrome pickup here, so they're doing a chrome version of this, and it looks amazing.
I saw you play it.
Yeah.
So, did they make a relic? Did they make a relic version?
No, it's like that bass when it was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple people have made copies of that bass. You got it down to the fine tuning of every little nick and scratch and pop. A dear friend of mine, John Willis, he did one, and several people in Japan have done them. But this is just like a brand shiny new version of my original bass. And
it's beautiful. I've seen photos of you holding it. It's great.
Yeah, the only problem is they're only making 30 of them. So
I hope you get one.
I hope so too.
31.
Well, there was a prototype. I got that, so it's not included in the 30. So maybe I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't get into your gear pretty soon, there's a couple people want to talk about it in the chat. They
Fire away.
Gauge, and I'm sure it's one of those things where you just it's all over the place. But hey, we might as well.
No, fire them at me, no problem. String gauge. These are my Rotosound signature set. And what I did with them is it's a standard Rotosound set. RS66 is, I think, the model number. Everybody used Jocko, Chris Squire, Geddy Lee, everybody. Rotosounds are very popular strings. Hendrix actually played some of the Rotosound guitar strings for a while. Normally it's a 45, 65, 80, 105. I made the G string a little lighter so you can do it a little easier to get that bend. Not much easier, but in theory, it's easier. Mm-hmm. And then I made the low E a 110 because if you use the Hipshot D tuner, where you drop this little lever on the back, and drop it down to a D. If it's 105, it flops around a little bit. So I use a 110. So it makes it a little tighter. So the E is tighter, the G is a microscopic bit looser, the D and the A are the same, and they're wound the same, they're done the same. Jason Howe, the guy who runs Rotosound now, his dad started the company. He built the machines himself to wind the strings, which is mind-blowing. And they're made by hand. I've been in the factory, and it's the real thing. And there was a real tradition to them and a real organic feel and quality to them. So many iconic, amazing songs were played on bass on Rotosound strings. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
When the song "Money" starts by Pink Floyd, those are Rotosound bass strings.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Chris Squire, anything you've ever heard in Yes, it's all Rotosound strings. I think Geddy has used them his whole life too. Jocko used them. They're very, very popular. So a lot of great strings are out there. They're all fantastic. You choose what suits you best. But for me, when I see a great artist endorse something when I was a kid, I think, well, he uses it. I want to. It's got to be good enough for him, so I want to use that. And that was so. Hopefully, people will look at it that way. But there's a lot of great strings out there.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Money. That's probably the most popular song ever written in 7/8, right?
And one of the few hits in 7/8. That's true. The other one, another one.
Go ahead.
Salisbury Hill by Peter Gabriel.
Oh, no kidding.
7/4.
See, that's when you know you got a hit, when you can write something in 7/8.
No kidding.
Like, whoa, that's in 7/8. You don't even notice. That's when you know you got something.
Yeah, Genesis had a way of doing odd times that were so smooth and unjarring. Where a lot of prog bands now, they're purposely trying to be as jarring and incoherent as possible. God bless them. That's a style as legitimate as anything else. But I come a little bit old school, where I wanted the odd times and stuff to not feel like I'm lost.
Yeah, you don't want it to lose the groove, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a question about the Bad Apple project.
Oh, okay.
Working with Mike Portnoy and John Sykes, which, I mean, I'm a huge John Sykes guy, and he doesn't talk to anybody. How long did the three of you work together, and are there any recordings of that exist?
We got together maybe 3 times at John's house. One time just by myself there with his engineer, laying direct bass with nothing on it, basic root notes on a couple of chord changes of songs. Mike had already laid some drums down. It just didn't, unfortunately, it didn't work out. John's an amazing player and a wonderful guy. Mm-hmm. And, it's like your mom says, oh, there's this girl next door. She's really nice. You should meet her. And she's pretty and she's cool, but it just doesn't click.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of people think, oh, this would be a great super group, and they list a bunch of people, and it crashes and burns instantly. There's that vibe and a hang and a thing that happens to people. Doesn't mean they're good, doesn't mean they're bad, doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just what works and what doesn't. Peanut butter on pizza? No, doesn't work. No. So, but I don't know what he's done since then.
I don't think anything. I've been trying to find a way to get to him, and you just know, you can't. He can't. He's just like it. You can't get to him.
Yeah. Well, it was we thought it could be a good thing, but unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. And I wish him nothing but good things and success. But Mike is a powerhouse, and Mike. Initially, John thought, well, we could, spend about a month on guitars. And I saw Mike's eyes glaze over, like, a month on guitars? Let's get this record done in 2 days. Come on. That kind of thing. That's kind of how Mike is. And he will. Mike will get it done. Mm-hmm. Mike is a powerhouse of everything. He'll get the video edited and do the set list and make sure the lighting cues are right. And, he's on it. He is on it. And let's go. Let's move fast. And aside from being a wonderful, really great drummer, he's on top of everything, and it moves fast. It goes quick. When I go to rehearsal, I make sure I know all those songs pretty cold, so I'm not the one they're trying to show how the song goes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Mike is a powerhouse, and I love working with them. So I don't know why I didn't think of Richie, because I love Richie, and he's a dear friend, and we hang out, and Eddie Trunk said, what about Richie Kotzen? I thought, oh.
I remember that on the on That Metal Show. I watched that episode. Yeah, it was brainstorm. And that brings me to a Winery Dog question.
Great.
The Winery Dog music is some of the most original new music today. Can you give us some insight into the songwriting process, and are there any new Winery Dog projects on the horizon?
Well, we had planned all along to, in the middle of this year, to start writing the next record, which will be out next year. This whole year, Richie was going to take, because his 50th birthday, and he did a record with 50 songs for his 50th birthday. Quite an endeavor.
Amazing, yeah.
I spoke with him when he was at about song 38. He was like, I don't know if I can finish this. Fortunately, he managed to pull 12 out of somewhere. But they were really, written for the record. It wasn't like reworking things and stuff. But he did an amazing job on it. He's such a superstar. I love him completely. But we, sorry, the first part of the question. I went to the second part and I forgot the first part.
Can you give us any insight into the songwriting process?
Yeah, we just kind of sat in a room. And Mike was on a tiny little kit in Richie's studio. I had some unknown little bass amp, and Richie's guitar was there. And we just started jamming around. And a couple things happened, I think, as a result of that. Because Mike's on a small kit, he's got to kind of concentrate what he does into a groove and a thing. Not that he's got a great groove and an amazing pocket, no matter what kit he's on. But but it managed to kind of make him concentrate on that in a different way. So it really became a powerful force. And
I've seen that kit.
Yeah. So with me, in a similar way, I'm speculating. No amp or gear or things. It's just a chord into an amp. And there I am, and I'm sitting on the little amp in the room. And Richie's playing he's at home in his home studio, so he felt real at home. And we just kind of let nature take its course. And I think it's a really cool thing if I may say so about the Winery Dogs, we just kind of let it happen. We didn't really, okay, we got to write 10 songs. All right, let's get to, okay, figure a verse out. It was, we just allowed life and nature to take its course. And that's why after the second record, the first record tour, second record tour, after that tour, we said, hold on a second. If we just go do album tour, we're going to fall into the hole that a lot of bands fall into. A lot of bands, when they do their first record, they've been playing for 10 years, and they got all these songs, and they played them live forever, and then bang, that first record is amazing. Okay, you got 3 months to make your next record instead of 10 years. So that's why the sophomore jinx, they call it. The second record sometimes doesn't have the kind of depth that the first one did. We got really lucky on Hot Streak. We pulled it off again somehow, and we got what I consider was a very good record.
I agree.
I'm very pleased with it. But we thought, instead of tempting fate again and just running in and doing another, let's go live our lives and write stuff and work with things and do things. And then we come back, we'll have some fresh ideas and fresh thought, and it won't be this forced album tour. And who knows, it remains to be seen whether or not it's going to be successful in doing so. But in theory, it makes sense to me rather than just forcing it out. And that's what a lot of the secret to all the writing was in the Winery Dogs. To really just kind of let things happen. And Mike is a superstar, amazing, remembers his parts, has great ideas. Richie's voice is as good as it gets. His guitar playing is really unique amongst his peers. He's got a flavor of jazz in there, if I may say so. People know Richie. A lot of people know, oh, didn't he play in Poison briefly? Yeah, that's true. But he also replaced Alan Holdsworth in Virtue with Stanley Clarke and Lenny White, the guys from Chick Corea's band. So those are as heavy hitters as you can get. And Richie managed to stand with them and play.
Well, in my humble opinion, you spoke about Native Tongue. I think that's probably the best Poison record ever, and the best Poison record that will ever be. And it was all because Richie showed them how to play their instruments. The Poison guys are friends of mine, and I like them a lot. And Bobby Dahl's always been wonderful to me. All of them have been. And Poison is what they are, and God bless them. They put together the best they could and did their thing, and bang, it was a huge hit. So, yes, absolutely. I've got nothing. I've got nothing bad to say about them.
I get it.
Yeah, they're great. But I'm just saying the musicianship went up incredibly once Richie joined the band. And it's not just Richie. The rest of the band just really did an amazing job. Everything was great. I mean, Poison's a great band. They're a great band. They're always going to be a great 80s band, and they're always going to be on the radio.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But that one record was like, oh my God, listen to that, listen to this. And I wasn't just listening to the guitar, I was listening to everything. It was like amazing. It was great.
Yeah, Richie also was in Mr. Big briefly. Paul Gilbert left the band for a while, and he came in. And it really was great, but it wasn't Mr. Big.
Right.
And I love the stuff we did with Richie. And but I'm a fan. And when a band changes a member, it's hard. It's not the same for me in a lot of ways. Yeah. So Richie was amazing in Mr. Big. He sang his ass off and wrote some great songs and played amazingly. But Mr. Big is myself, Eric, Pat, and Paul. But I'm glad now I have the opportunity to work with Richie. And like I said, I love him completely, and he's one of my dearest friends. And he is a sweet, wonderful, nice, incredible man. And I could not speak more highly of him.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, I was hoping he was like that, and I can kind of tell, and just watching him play and watching him, when he even talks between songs, when he talks to the crowd, he's down to earth. He's a great guy, and he's for real. Yeah,
and he is a certified lunatic also. I can guarantee it.
Listen, I know.
Hilarious. There's a video of Johnny at NAMM.
I've heard stories. I've heard 20 stories. Larry Mitchell's a good friend of mine and also a friend of Richie's. So I've heard some stories through him, which I won't repeat. But it's good to know that he's kind of got the whole thing, good guy and kind of.
And he's nuts. He's nuts. But it's a hilarious nuts. It's not an evil insanity. Mm-hmm. It's funny.
He was. I met him at Jason Becker's house. I'm good friends with Jason Becker.
Wonderful.
Right there.
How great.
And Richie came to one of his birthday parties. at Jason's house about 10 years ago.
Oh, great.
And I remember Richie was playing guitar and singing for Jason and for everybody. And it was amazing.
Mind blowing. All right. What else you got?
Well, I'm getting a text from Cameron Brown here, who's a good friend of ours. And he has a buddy. His name is Rob. I guess he plays bass, and he is going to shit his pants if I ask you any advice on slap bass.
Well, I hope he doesn't, because that would be a mess. What a drag. Well, I'm not necessarily a slap guy. I learned some stuff just to kind of, to see if I could do it or not. But it's a little different than a regular slap player. And when I see slap players doing that, it's mind-blowing. It's incredible. It's not my thing. And for me also, and not no offense, but when I hear a rock song and I hear that sound, when I hear that, it's not rock to me anymore.
It's Seinfeld.
There you go. And that's not a bass.
I know.
It's a keyboard. It sounded like it. But I love Victor Wooten's a dear friend of mine, Grandmaster. Stu Ham, Grandmaster. Marcus Miller, Grandmaster. There's so many great players out there that do it so well. Yeah. I better stay away from it because I'll never catch up with them on that. But there's some elements that I like, and sometimes if I'll do I'll put this down. If I do like an abbreviated, like a Steve Harris was a slap player. That's probably how he would do it. I think it's a little bit more chunky 16th notes than the slap and pop thing. But I always I sit in this garage for hours sometimes, and I work on a million things, and I always love to get challenged by something that I can't do. So the slap thing is a thing that I'll sit here sometimes and work on. And work on a couple little thingies that most slap players will look at it and go, yeah, let me show you how it's done. Let me show you how it's done, Sheehan. But it's kind of nice. There was one song by Niacin. There's a break in the middle of it where I did that. I went up I was in LA, and my home had a little rooftop patio. And I go up there at night. It was just a small little patio. I watch the stars and things like that. So I thought, how in the world is this? So I actually sat down and thumped away and came up with that lick. And we wrote a song about it. That was the only time I really recorded anything like that. But again, I see guys doing it. It's just so amazing. I'm very impressed, and it's very inspiring to see them do things like that.
That's cool.
Are you a metronome guy?
I will practice with a metronome, yeah, because for the simple reason of I'm practicing away and I'm in time. I always try to keep a foot going. That's one of the first things I say. Bass players playing, I go, bro, tap your foot, keep time. You got to keep time, and you got to play to the time, and the time's got to sync with the drummer. And now we start. But so I'm always keeping time bodily somehow by my foot or something, or bobbing my head. And I'm playing, and then when I put a metronome on and play to the metronome, it's harder to play. It's physically hard. So I'm using muscles to make sure I land on one that I'm not using when I'm not, and I don't have that Gestapo metronome there. So I think sometimes, which indicates to me that I need work on it. So I'll sit there with a metronome for hours and hit it and hit it and hit it, and it's ugly and it hurts and it's painful. But at the end, it starts to smooth out, starts to open up, and pretty soon you feel your groove happening much easier. You see other people connecting with your playing a lot easier now, other musicians, because you're in line, you're in time, and so I'm not afraid to step way back and relearn anything that I've ever known. Because sometimes things fade away a little bit, and you got to kind of refresh your memory on them. So I do work with a metronome sometimes.
Cool. Speaking of Niacin, you were in a great project called Niacin with Dennis Chambers.
Woo!
Very unique drummer.
Great drummer.
Lots of groovy time signatures. What impact did that experience have on your playing and your overall growth as a player?
Dennis Chambers changed my life. He's the greatest musician I know on any instrument.
Wow.
And he is an absolute grandmaster. And he tells a funny story. And he never practices and he never warms up. I hate him for it. It's unbelievable. We go just cold, walk up on stage, and he's not like some fanatical. His groove is just so righteous.
What's funny is that his torso never moves.
He's just this mind-blowing thing.
It's incredible.
His groove grabs you by the throat, and you have no choice but they're locked in. Okay, Dennis, you got me. And he's just so great. And not only is he one of the sweetest, most wonderful human beings on planet Earth, mind-blowing, but so Dennis was doing a drum clinic one time. He told me this story. I'll relate it. And a lot of people, they don't believe that he doesn't warm up. He doesn't practice. So some kid raises his hand. Is it true you don't warm up and practice? He goes, yeah, it's true. And then all the kids in the audience are like, no, that bullshit, no way. He goes, okay, all right, I'll prove it to you. Let me give you a test. All right, drummers in here. Everybody, how many people are having trouble with their playing? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you practice? And he goes, see?
That's great. That's just
can't fault that logic. But what a great experience. Yeah, Niacin was a B3 drums and bass, and I grew up listening to Hammond B3. Some younger generation may not know it as well, but B3 was everything at the time, more so than guitar. When you had a band in the 60s, a B3 was almost more important than a guitar player. Because every side, Zeppelin was a B3 band. The Beatles used a B3. Yes, Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, everything by Motown. The B3 was just everywhere. So I was glad to have a B3 band with Dennis Chambers.
Yeah. I'll go one further. Having a Rhodes in the band with a B3.
Yeah.
You don't need a guitar player then.
Exactly. So more room for us bass players. No, I'm kidding.
You're darn right. Well,
All right, fire another
I'll give
one.
you all the room you want.
All right, I got one.
Johnny, go.
All right. Our friend John Mancuda asks, Billy, what's your memory of the Hollywood Bowl? He says the almost David Lee Roth reunion. The
Hollywood Bowl was the bowling bowl, not the Hollywood Bowl.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
The Hollywood Bowl is a big concert venue. It was But we myself, Steve, and Greg were going to go up and do a song with I think initially with the singer from I blanked on the name.
Steel Panther.
Yeah, because he does a great David Lee Roth too. And so out of nowhere, somebody said, maybe we should give Dave a call. Steve gave him a call, and so we're going to play at this jam at the bowling alley, and they have it every Tuesday night, and it's a pretty cool jam. Everybody just gets up. You can't bring a pedal board and plug it in. One band up, off, next band up, off. So there's no rehearsal, no sound check, no nothing. You run up, plug in, go, get off, next band. Fantastic. I wish they were all like that. Waiting 45 minutes for the drummer to set his special snare drum up so he can, can we just play the snare drum, will you, bro? Come on. So Dave got in touch. Said, yeah, I'll do it. We thought, wow, we had to keep it silent, quiet. First of all, it's free to get in, and it's just a jam. So I called up. I think I spoke with Ralph and said, I'm sorry, but I think Dave might want to do it, so we can't use it. He goes, oh, I thought he was cool. It's so great, no problem. So you got to keep it quiet, yeah. So we all kept it quiet, but of course, that's pretty hard to keep quiet. And so sure enough, we got there. Now it was the fault of the venue. They started letting people in and letting people in and letting people in more and more and more, and the place legally holds, I think 500. Sometimes they'll let them get away with 6 or 650. They had 1,200 people in there.
Oh.
So
Earmuff.
I had friends in the audience. I said they were standing there with their beer and they couldn't even move. They couldn't get to the bar, nothing. If there would have been a fire or a problem or somebody would have gotten, hurt or sick, or it could have been a catastrophe. So the fire department did the right thing, but we didn't know this. And there's a curtain in front of the stage. You get up on stage, the curtain opens, there's a band. So we're up on stage. Dave's on the side of the stage. We're ready to go. And all of a sudden, off to my side, I see flashlights and shit going on. And they came in with full gear, axes, firemen's hats, the full banana. And they came in, shut it down. That's it. You guys are done. So we said, well, can we pay the fine? Nope. And so I thought, well, maybe if we play a little bit, the people get excited and the firemen. So I played a couple of notes. He goes, one more note off that stage, somebody gets arrested.
Holy
sorry, man. Sorry. I was instantly like,
that wasn't the bass.
That ain't me.
Yeah.
So that was it. And then they tried, can we just ask for volunteers to leave? And everybody's like, nope, I ain't volunteering to leave. So they shut it down. But the good news was me, Steve, Greg, Brett, and Dave got to hang again. And we were in the backstage area till about 4 a.m, I think, having some drinks and just talking about the old days and all kinds of stuff. And that was worth it to me. That was almost more worth it in a lot of ways, because we got to be together again. And what a mind-blowing time we all had back in the day. So
arguably
that was quite nice.
One of the best rock bands in history.
You're very kind to say. Thank you.
Do you remember what the set list was going to be?
Shy Boy and Yankee Rose. 2 songs. Hit it.
Oh,
hit it and get off, right?
Yeah, and
I remember
you eventually did those songs without Dave, right?
The next year, I think we had Jeff Scott Soto come up, and Jeff's got an amazing voice, and he does a great, he's got a really voice, kind of like Dave's, just loud, and it's got a lot of character to it. And so he did it instead, and that was pretty cool. But I remember it just reminded me of one of our first rehearsals we did with Eat 'Em and Smile at Perkins Palace venue in Pasadena. And they shut it down, and we were just in there with our gear every night practicing on the stage with an empty house, a 3,000-seater. And I had moved to LA, rehearsed the whole thing, done the whole record. Now I was kind of a Los Angeles guy and hanging with Dave every day, and Steve and Greg and all of us having a good time. And we're on stage, and we're doing
Yeah.
And Dave's up with me at the microphone saying, I'm on fire. And they were singing that background harmony. And all of a sudden it hit me. I'm in David Lee Roth's band.
Yeah.
And it suddenly hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, holy, because such a whirlwind of things going on. I didn't get a chance to step back and go, this was the biggest dream I ever had here. Holy cow. It's amazing. So.
One second you were doing small clubs and theaters, and the very next minute you were on stages like you couldn't believe.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
How'd that feel?
Like, that was a culmination of a lifetime of dreams. I mean, that's what I want. That's why when I started playing, and I'm never looking to become a star or I hate rock star. Even the phrase bothers me. But I wanted to play, and I wanted to play for people. And first concert I ever saw was Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to play and have people be out here going, wow, cool. We're having a great time. That's what I didn't think about. I want to get rich, and I want to have this, and I want to play. I want to do that. So it was that I got what I dreamt for and what I went for, and I'm supremely grateful to everybody, but certainly Dave especially, because that was what started the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome. I'm very thankful.
I can only imagine, and the hair on my arms as I talk to you, and
the hair on your sweater.
It's not a sweater; it's a T-shirt. It's just a long sleeve T-shirt.
He's got a cat.
I do have a cat and 2 dogs. In fact, I don't know where my dogs are right now. They're probably.
Well, I have to make an announcement to everybody tonight. A very, very important day. This is our new kitty cat Rebel. It's his very first birthday. So.
Oh, happy birthday, Rebel!
Oh, happy birthday, Rebel!
He's not allowed in the garage though, so he can't come visit.
That's cool.
I got another question from Caleb Rappaport, who's in the chat. Actually, he says, or he asked, was Tobacco Road tracked live, and did Billy notice Vi's dive bomb at the end mimicking tobacco perfectly. Did anybody notice that?
That's the first I ever heard it.
Oh, you're gonna have to go listen.
I don't know. I will. I'll go back and listen. But yeah, that whole record was cut at Fantasy Studios. Most of it all cut at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley. That's where we did all the Mr. Big records. That's where Journey did most of their records. Great studio. And yeah, we were in a room together playing, and that's why Eat 'Em and Smile. I just was never really into Skyscraper. Sorry if that's your favorite record. God bless you, but
it's a good record.
It just wasn't my thing. We all did everything separately. You know, the drums would be done. I'd come in by myself, play to the drums, leave. Steve would come in by him. You know, it wasn't a band group thing where Eat 'Em and Smile, we were all together hanging. Afterwards, we go to a restaurant or order some food and have some drinks and hang out and party and tell stories. And it was a riot. So all Eat 'Em and Smile was like that, which I think for me, I'm a little too close to it to really be objective, but for me, that's what makes that record my favorite. But I understand a lot of people also love Skyscraper, which I'm pleased to hear, but it wasn't made the same way.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely, you know, that energy of playing in the same room with people is you know, you can't match it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I think it's plainly obvious on the Eat 'Em and Smile record. So
I have a very early, maybe not rehearsal, but a very early version of you guys recording the rhythm tracks on my iPod, and Dave scatting on some of it and playing, singing wrong words and stuff. And every time I hear that,
Shimmy Cocoa Pop, right?
Yeah. Every time I hear it, not only do I smile, but I feel like I'm in that room with you guys.
It was an incredible experience. So great. And it's tough to make records like that now because you got everybody in the same city, everybody in the same room. There were a lot of costs involved in that and the budgets to make a record now. Back then, the budgets basically were open. You just keep going until the record is done and see how much you spent. Where now, you got this much, and once you're done tracking the basic tracks, you got that much left. So you gotta. It's kind of hard to do it like we used to do, but sometimes it happens. Thankfully,
yeah.
We've talked about this before, the whole like recording industry and how it's changed. And nowadays, I mean, back then, everybody in the band had to know their material inside and out. There was no getting to the studio. Oh, I still have to learn this part and stuff like that. It was like you had to go in there and know your stuff.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you got bands recording albums that don't even know, like you can fix so many things in the studio, and like bands that don't even play together recording albums. You know, like, hey, just send me the drum tracks, I'll record something to it. And of course, there's an art into that and beauty of it, but at the same time, it's still, I think, a lot of the younger bands that are just like kind of like recording studio stuff. They don't have that experience of like getting into a studio and working at the studio, like all that stuff. I think it's kind of lost, and it sucks, you know.
True, but when things of that nature come up, I always have to say, anytime a new thing comes around, all the guys that did it the old way are saying, "Well, but you know, and the way we did it was really," and then 20 years later, the guys that started doing the phone it in and pitch correction, they go, "Yeah, remember the days we pitch corrected everything? Oh, those were the days, you know."
Yeah.
So
sure.
Unfortunately, it's kind of like, remember we fixed every note of the singer, every single note he sang. That was great, you know. So now they don't even have singers. Now it's all done on computer. But you're right. It is a real thing to be in a room together. But it is his own thing, and a lot of young players, they got their own thing, and it's different than how I grew up and what I did, and how all of us may have grown up and what we did. But I don't want to remove from it its validity, because it's how it's done, and time marches on. As soon as you got email, you stopped going to your mailbox, and you could write to anybody, and anybody could write to you for free all over the world.
Yeah,
amazing. You know,
I don't want to take anything away from it, because I'm guilty of doing it well. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. It's just the difference in, you know, obviously new generation, all that stuff, but it's just a weird thing that now, like, you kind of get away with not knowing all your stuff. Like, I tracked this whole solo, and that one note is fudged. Let me just, you know, punch in that one note. You know what I mean?
Or find it somewhere else in a song. And
I've seen it.
Or so stuff that you physically can't play.
Yeah.
I'm gonna record it and punch in all these weird edits and I'll never be able to play it.
I'm sure. I'm sure that happens.
Yep.
And it did happen even in the earlier days with recording when bands would do a lot of multi-tracking with a lot of stuff. They go to play live and
you had to figure out what parts made sense to
that?
play. Yeah,
exactly. So it's been going on for a while, I think.
So our friend John Mancudo, who deserves a big mention, he's one of Johnny's co-hosts on Johnny's Tuesday night show. He has a question for you. He says, if you could do a project today with any artist, who would it be now?
Boy, hard to say. I love Dennis Chambers, but I know a huge influence on Dennis Chambers was Billy Cobham. And Billy Cobham, for those of you who don't know, when he first came on the scene, blew everybody's mind. Every drummer there was, he changed everything. A lot of great drummers around that time period. But Billy Cobham was amazing. I wish I could play with him in 1972. Yeah, that would have been amazing. Paco de Lucia is a flamenco player that I just adore. Sadly, we lost him a few years back, and he was a guy who, not that I'm qualified to play with him, but I was just like, maybe stand in the room. Maybe he'd let me do that. But he was another guy who was just pretty amazing. But I've been lucky to play with a lot of great players already. And when that question comes up, I have a hard time thinking of it because I've been blessed and lucky to play with some amazing players over the years. Great drummers, great guitar players. And I think I'm the only guy that's played with every member of Van Halen. So
that's incredible. That's incredible.
At the same time, no, I'm joking.
And in the same time would be great. How many times?
Yeah, at the same time would be nice.
Yeah. This is a question. I'm going to ask this question, but it's probably going to be an answer that I think we're all going to know. Of all the albums you've made, which are you the most proud of, or which one is your favorite?
Well, it's a toss-up between Eat 'Em and Smile and Lean Into It. Because, and now a new contender is the first Winery Dogs record. Because I know there's been certain records that I've done that I listen to a lot. I listen to those records. And some records I've done I've never even heard, or just maybe heard a snippet of. I didn't sit down and listen to it for various reasons. But Eat 'Em and Smile I listen to a lot. Lean Into It I listen to a million times. And the first Winery Dogs record. Plus, when I get a record and I want to play it for my friends, because I'm a big iTunes collector, I got over 2 terabytes of music with the correct cover art and all the titles right and in a perfectly organized from all over the place. And we have iTunes night and we play songs for hours. And so it's a big thing to me to listen to music. So when I have my friends over and I say, wait, you got to hear this. And it's Eat 'Em and Smile. I know when I step back from myself, I go, I see what I'm playing for other people. So I see what it means for me. Mr. Big, Lean Into It, and the first Winery Dogs record as well. These records I play with everybody. So I'd have to say it's now a 3-way toss-up between those 3 records. Though the new Sons of Apollo record, MMXX, we did really well with it right out of the box. And unfortunately, we toured in America a short tour and then went to Europe and then we had to stop because of the pandemic thing. So I don't think it's been given an honest shot yet. I hope we get a chance to go out and play it on the road for a few months so I can really dig into it. So I'm very pleased with that record also. But of them all, there wouldn't have been a Lean Into It if there wasn't an Eat 'Em and Smile. So I have to give the absolute top award to that record because if I wouldn't have gotten there, I could have never made the jump and had the kind of thing we had with Mr. Big. So I have to, again, default back to that.
So why Lean Into It over the self-titled Mr. Big record?
It just seemed to come together more. I love the first record, but it got released and there was about 10 bands that were made up of guys that were from other bands that were all on major labels and they were all going to be the next big thing. So it was a real competitive, crazy time for things like that. And I thought we had some great stuff on that record, but not everyone. And we had a great tour. We did a tour with Rush from that record. So we did really good as far as that goes, but it just didn't click. Maybe who knows why? The King's X, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska, one of the greatest records ever.
I'm a huge
every musician in the world knows it by heart, but it just is not that successful of a record. Why? I have no idea.
I mean, it's love. That's
Brilliant.
That song is just forget it.
Mind
So
blowing.
Marianne Sheehan is in the audience. She
That's
says,
my
"So much
sister.
fun."
That's
There you
my
go.
sister.
Well,
I was just going to say
that's why I
that's gotta be
started
a family
playing.
member.
I started playing because she got an acoustic guitar. She's got a great voice. She likes to sing, and she was into Donovan and a lot of folk singing songwriters type people. And so she had a guitar in her room, and I would sneak in there and get it and play, play her guitar. And eventually, she didn't have the time to devote to it that she wished she could have. And by then, I was already kind of up and running on the guitar. So she let me buy it from her for $30. Wow. And I still haven't paid her yet. So interest accrued on that is she's probably the only billionaire you have on the chat room here.
How much interest has built up in the past? How many years has it been?
Oh, it's been a long time. How great! Hi, Mare. Yeah, she's awesome. We're very close in our family. My sister Marianne and I are probably the closest of all of our family because we had a lot of the same things. We love the same music and the same ideas and stuff. And I love all my other sister and my brother and everybody else too. But she and I are very, very close, and I'm very, very happy about that.
Well, she's saying it was $35, not $30.
Oh,
yeah. Now there's even more.
Wow, that's even more.
Yeah.
So one day I'll get around to paying her.
Oh, that's too good, man.
Great.
I know we got other questions in here. I just we still got 186 at least watching on YouTube.
Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you, everyone.
We got 212 total. I'm seeing
How great.
between the
Beautiful.
two.
Well, if I may give a message to everyone, I know times are tough now. The toughest thing is an economic thing too, because people got to pay their rent and buy food, and we've been out of work. For the music business, is particularly tough because once we can finally do a show, nobody has enough money to buy a ticket to go to the show. So it's going to be a long time before it gets back to normal. I'm very, very thankful that we were wise enough to plan for any eventuality, and we did have a little money saved, but it's only going to last so long. So we're hoping everyone does well during this, and hope it's over soon and we can all get back to living our lives in a smarter and better way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so as far as that goes, I mean, do you have any idea, any clue of like what you want to do as soon as this is kind of, I know you mentioned with Sons of Apollo, kind of like hoping to finish that album cycle.
That'd be nice, but I do know also we're going to start putting some things together with the Winery Dogs, writing wise.
Yeah.
And I often hate to mention that anything's happening because then people, so when's the record out? Next week? No. It's going to be months before we even get in the studio to record it, and then it's months from then do you actually hear it. So yeah. I hesitate sometimes to say anything. Is the record out yet? No, we're just writing the first song now. But that's what our plan is, and I'm very pleased about that. Yeah, it's been a great run with Sons of Apollo too. We can go back and do it again, more on the MMXX record. The record did really great. And it was already in a couple of top lists for best records of the year so far because everything had to stop.
Yeah.
But, I'd love to go out and play more with that and the Winery Dogs. And I don't know what's happening with Mr. Big, but I hope someday we can play together in some capacity. Who knows? I love those guys. And
you and Paul as a duo. Well, actually, a trio. How about just a trio, acoustic?
Why not? Why not? So we'll see. We don't know. There's no unannounced plans or secret machinations going on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. But I want to play live. I live to play live. That's what I did for my whole life, and it's important.
There's a song that you guys did on tour where you guys all sing, like it wasn't a cappella. You guys played along, but there was you all had a part where it was a big harmony thing. I don't know the name of the song.
It's For You.
No,
by Three Dog Night.
I
see a song.
Yes.
It's For You.
Oh,
you know who wrote that song?
No.
That's a Lennon and McCartney song.
No kidding.
Yeah. And it was done by Three Dog Night, who never wrote a song. They never wrote a song. And that was and it was a famous song back in Buffalo because we had every band in Buffalo sang 3, 4, 5-part harmonies. It was a very famous band called The Road, way back in the day, and the bass player Joe Hesse started me on bass, and that was one of the songs they did. And later on in Talus and different versions of Talus, we did kind of a version of it. So when Mr. Big was thinking of a song to do like in the middle of the show to give, to take a break, we thought, let's give it a try. So you can YouTube It's For You, Mr.
You can
Big.
YouTube that whole you guys are in Japan.
Yeah.
And that show that was caught on YouTube. First of all, it was Pro Shot. It's amazing. It's not a bootleg. It's a Pro Shot.
They don't mess around in Japan.
And that show is one I've never seen you guys live. I'm so sorry I never got to. But watching that show, I felt like I can say I saw Mr. Big live, and that was amazing.
Yeah, we were very lucky to have the situation we had in Japan. We went there early on. Actually, the first time I went to Japan, I went there to do Yamaha bass clinics, and I had the Mr. Big demo on a cassette with me. So we played it as walk-in music for the clinics. And I thought, what a clinic was, about maybe 150, 200 people. So I went to sound check, and it was an NHK hall. NHK is the equivalent of NBC in America. It's about a 3,000 seater. And I said, what are you going to rope off the first couple of rows? And they go, no, it's sold out. Are you kidding me?
That's crazy. That's good.
I better start practicing. Holy cow.
Yeah.
So I got on as 3,000 people for a bass clinic, and I played that tape for them. So that kind of set things up for us a little bit. And then we finally got there with Mr. Big. They were just amazing to us. But a lot of people think, well, any American band goes, oh, you're going to be huge. And it's just a cliche that isn't true at all. Yeah. We got there early. We stayed late. We shook every hand. We signed every autograph. We did every in-store promotion. We worked it hard. We played our absolute best. And they responded. A lot of bands go, oh, you can just be up here and do anything. They're going to love it. Not true at all. A lot of bands never got asked back again once they played there. They just didn't do it. But they were just amazing to us. And we became very close with those people in that culture.
That's
and
awesome.
It was so enriching. Just a beautiful thing.
We have one of our very good friends here in the chat who texted me. His name is Fruitcake Tony, but it's his handle. He asks, when Roth was putting together his latest band, getting ready for Vegas, with Kiss, were any members of the Eat 'Em and Smile band approached?
I wasn't. I don't think. I actually don't know. All I know is for myself. I don't believe so. It was just kind of Dave doing his thing, and
yeah.
I saw the first couple of YouTube videos came out.
I thought it was very good. I thought I saw the first show and the second show.
You did.
Yeah.
But I know, YouTube commenters were pretty. Of course, they're a pretty tough bunch to start with.
They're always going to be.
Yeah, they always will be. But I'm glad later on it came together and it was righteous. So
I thought Roth's voice was much better this time around than it was on the 2015 World Tour with Van Halen.
I see.
I just thought that he sang the songs more like the songs.
Great.
And the band.
I've always loved Dave's voice. I've always loved Dave's voice. I think he's got a great voice. He's got a real character to it, and so I'm glad for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome.
Right on.
So when are you going to do something with the road crew? When are you coming back to Long Island and New York City?
As soon as they give me a call.
Because I definitely want to shake your hand.
It would be my pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a cool thing. Rod Morgenstein was the drummer, and the gentleman from Zebra joined us. Mm-hmm. I forgot his name. Sorry.
The guitar player?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Now I have a brain fart.
It'll show up on the.
Yeah.
Somebody knows. Anyway, he's an amazing player, and we had a good time. It was cool.
Yeah.
This is for
Randy Jackson.
Yes, yes, sir. You are correct, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else, anyone?
Okay, here's Stump the band. Ready? Stump the audience. Let me see. I can make a clean tone here for a minute. So, what song would this be? Anybody?
I think we should be exempt. It should come from the chat.
She was the first to get it.
The name of the song?
Yeah.
John Bielsa's
Fire on High.
Where's the hold on.
See, us old guys have an advantage because we
Ventura Highway.
No. It was good. The chords are similar though. Sounds like a Nintendo song.
It's not Pinball Wizard.
Brendan Buttcheek says it's Pinball Wizard.
No. Oh, Mark Pigliavento. Watcher of the Sky, Genesis.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Mark, you nailed it. Thank you, my brother. She's not played on bass, so it threw everybody for a loop. It's not with the bass part, so.
What else we got now?
Yeah, keep going.
Another one?
Mr. Bassman, let's go.
Okay, well, here's a tough one. Just parts of it.
Man, I'm going to say it's another Genesis song. It sounds like Problem.
Close. Not Genesis, but close. Donkey Kong. King Crimson, you got it. What song? Eduardo Perez. It's Fracture.
That's awesome. So you're a big Tony Levin fan?
Oh, no, yes, but I was more into the early version of King Crimson. People forget how old I am, so it's always an older thing that I.
Well, you're at least 29.
At least, very least. Actually, I got shoes older than that. So.
Me too.
All right, so how about we go from that to? Would you? I wanted to ask you this, and I almost don't want to because would you play the beginning to Had Enough? Because that is. Oh,
right. It's a weird kind of a. It's like a. That's those harmonics there.
Such a great intro, man.
Yeah, I was interested in the sweep picking thing, but on bass I only had the three notes, and then eventually we got to all four strings. And it's utter nonsense. That and 25 cents will get you a phone call.
Well, so was that something you had prior to the song being written, or was it like the song?
I had a couple.
Hey guys, I have this intro.
I had a couple little thingies like that, and then we thought, well, let's do a bass intro, and I did it with the same chords, and it kind of came out. Kind of like in the Winery Dogs, there's a song called "You Save Me" that has a.
Saw that, yeah.
And that was basically just a little thingy I was fooling around with in the studio. And Mike started playing drums to it. And then Richie, well, what key is it in? And he started playing along, and then it kind of happened. But it was just so I sit in the garage and I come up with all these crazy little bass parts, get my iPhone to self-video them so I don't forget them. So my iPhone's loaded with all this wacky nonsense that eventually sometimes turns into a song or actually finds a home somehow.
So when you first started playing that riff, because I remember watching that the first time and my mouth dropped. I was like, oh my God, first of all, Billy Sheehan that's his song. That's just, he is driving the bus. That's the bus right there. And then how does that not hurt your muscles in your hand? Because it's not that it's a lot of notes, but to do that pretty much the whole song, it gets like, how do you not tense up when you play that?
You just gotta After 50 years, it starts to work. You know, it just kind of like any physical thing. You know, if you're going to run a marathon or run a 100-yard dash or lift some weights, you build up to it. There's a physicality to it, the mechanics of how your hands work. You know, it's that's why I say anything I do, somebody else can do it. Anybody can do what I do. It might take you a while. I mean, I've been at it for many decades. It might take you a while to actually figure it out, but to sit there and piece through it note by note by note, and then put 2 pieces together, then 3 together, and then play all 3 with a 4th piece, and eventually you can get it. That's why I try to be encouraging to people that nothing's really out of range if you work at it hard enough. And I imagine there's some people that will never quite get it, but I think it's a very small percentage. I think people, if you're dedicated and you're relentless, anything can happen.
Well, it is the dedication. You're right, because people will ask, like, how do I want to be that good or something? It's like, well, you're going to have to basically forego your teen years,
life,
forego life, your social, like everything. Like you're going to have to basically just do it. You know,
when I was back in Buffalo, I didn't even start driving until I was 25 because I spent all my money on gear.
Wow, that's dedication right there.
Right. So it was all about that. You know, that's all I did. I'd be in my little apartment with my bass on. You know, somebody knock on the door, and I'd answer it with the bass. They go, "Don't you ever put that thing down?" I go, "No, I don't. I got some work to do here." So I'm supremely grateful. And that's the one thing. I never had any natural talent. I didn't pick it up and go, "Hey, check this out." You know, I had to work for everything, but I'm a good troubleshooter. I know if there's these, there's this, there's that sound. Okay, let's figure it out how to get from here to there, and basically come up with the steps you need to do it somehow. Like fixing something and figuring out what's wrong and what sequence of events. But the only thing I feel very blessed about is I got that drive to play and keep going, and just and so I'm sitting in my garage, on a Friday night. Well, I can't go anywhere anyway, but I would normally be even if there was no quarantine. I'd be in here playing and playing and playing. I get up early, I go for hours. I stay up late and go for hours, and it's exciting still. Go ahead.
Awesome.
The myriad of bass players out there, who is one that you looked up to, or who's one that you were as you were getting as good as you are? I want to play like that. Who is the guy that you thought of when you picked up your bass, other than yourself, of course?
Well, there's been a long list of them. Joe Hesse was my neighbor, and he was a bass player. He was a great guy, still a dear friend. And my sister Marianne was older, so she could go over and hang out. They wouldn't let me in. I was a little kid. Eventually, they let me in. I got to pick up his bass for the first time, and it was this big, heavy thing. And I wanted to be like Joe. And then we were listening to the Yardbirds, a bass player named Paul Samwell Smith. Which is like Yngwie of bass in 1967. Mind-blowing. I wanted to be like him. And then Tim Bogert from the Vanilla Fudge.
Sure.
Mind-blowing. Yeah. He was what a talent. He sang his ass off too. He just was a completely unique way of dealing with that instrument. Brilliant. So, and then from there, everybody, and not just bass players. So I listened to, piano players, sax players, a lot of classical music. Whenever we're in a situation when classical musicians are there, okay, now the real musicians are here. It's just that kind of discipline that it takes to play what they do blows me away.
Yeah. I'm a lifelong rock player, but I listen to more classical music than I do anything else.
More than anything.
Yeah,
very much so.
I listen to classical now just because I have 2 young kids, and I've heard the theory is the more classical music for their 3 and under ears is like candy for lifelong musicians. So I'm hoping.
Oh, I must have started late.
That's what I'm saying. I never listened to classical as a kid either, but
I did. I listened to classical when I was little.
Oh, so it doesn't work then? No, I'm joking.
I see on the screen a $5 and a question. What does that mean?
That's going to you.
Donation?
Bent Tom, thank you. Our friend Brad Russell credits you with wanting a tremolo on his bass.
Yep.
Are there any younger, newer bassists you really like?
There's a lot of great ones, and I apologize, I can't think of any names offhand, but I do know that now the bass community is fantastic. There's a million amazing players. I see them, and I'm blown away, and I'm inspired, and I try to steal their licks right away. Of course not.
Awesome.
Everything I got, I stole from somebody somehow, some way, in some fashion. But yeah, this is a great, great community of bass players now. For my Yamaha Attitude bass, there's a Facebook page for Attitude users, and there's great information there and about all kinds of gear, not just Attitude bass. But it's just a wonderful, friendly, nice, cool community. A couple other bass pages that I'm connected to on Facebook. Great, helpful. Wonderful situation for bass players now, and any other bass player that came before you, they're all on YouTube and you can see it all. When I was a kid, we had to figure out what was going on just by ear, so it's a great time for all musicians, I think.
Yeah, speaking about your Attitude bass, along with Steve Vai's Gem guitar, I believe your bass is the longest running Signature Series bass ever.
Whoa, I had no idea.
I think it is. I'm almost positive. Our friend Fruitcake Tony asks, tell us about Shy Boy. He actually texted me a longer question in regards to that. What did Roth think of that song? And I mean, it made the record, so I'm sure it was great. But do you have a story behind that?
Well, he liked the song and said, let's do it. And I said, cool. Now, usually, standard operating procedure, so it's not a bad thing. Usually, if there's a one big, huge main guy in the band who's well known, and somebody brings a song in, he'll say to them, "I'll do your song on the record, but you got to give me half of your publishing money, or I'll give you 25% of your publishing money, or I'll take it all if I do it, and I'll just put your song on my record, so you'll get the notoriety of that." That happens often.
I never knew that. I never.
Oh yeah,
I think we're thinking of the same person. We're not going to mention any names, but
oh yeah, it could be. There's a lot of guys in the rock, but Dave did not do that.
Wow.
He let me have. It's still my song, and that was incredibly generous of him, and also very kind. He's credited as an arranger because he did change the key for the solo. Because after we're playing, the solo comes and it's. Like, so let's go to the relative minor. So we switched to the B minor. That was Dave's idea there completely. Mm-hmm. And the guitar and bass thingy, I think, was Dave's idea also, because initially it was just me. I mean, on the original version, it's just my bass. So to do a Steve and Billy thing together there, I thought was much more of a band thing than me just doing my noodling nonsense. So it actually worked out pretty good.
Great song, really. One of the greats.
Well, it's just cool to hear like a little insight about certain songs and how something came about. Like that's the type of stuff I love,
Yeah, it's interesting to me too. I mean, I love the background. I got a whole bunch of demos in my iTunes and some really rare and impossible stuff. I've got David Crosby singing Deja Vu alone with a guitar, and it's perfect. Flawless.
Well, he is
wow.
He is crazy.
My God.
I mean,
genius.
That band, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, they're like,
wow. It'll bring tears to your eyes.
Yeah.
And the Beach Boys demos and take by take version of Wouldn't It Be Nice, and just Beatles sitting around practicing different words to the song before they refined it and all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So I love stuff like that myself.
I have a Beatles story, and I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but every Christmas morning, the local radio station would play Beatles A to Z, and my father would wake me up at 6 a.m. I'd be up anyway, and we'd go down into the den and listen to the Beatles until it was over. The whole
great.
Until it was over, and I
mean, tradition.
Thank God for my dad doing that, because I love the Beatles. I mean, I'm sure I would have known them because I've been a guitar player for a very long time, but that was one of the single most greatest things he could have ever done to me is to let me listen to the Beatles and every song. Yeah.
There is a whole other generation of kids of the people that love the Beatles that are turned on. Like my mom loves Sinatra. When I was a little kid, I'm like, no, Mom, I don't listen to that. But now I love Sinatra. What a genius singer. Amazing. So it's good to turn people on to stuff like that. I've always wanted to be the guy that, hey, I got something for you to hear, to all my friends and say, well, check this out. And, it's a new thing and turn people on to it. I love doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I listen to more classical music and more Sinatra now than I do anything else.
Brilliant. And there's a Sinatra live at the Sands. It's live, unbelievable. Now, if you love that record, that record was a compilation of about 5 shows. I've got the other shows. Pretty amazing. Man. Pretty amazing.
Johnny's going to be making a trip to Tennessee pretty soon.
So bring a hard drive. At least 3 terabytes.
Wow. Oh, man. I first discovered a lot of that stuff on Spotify probably 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
The Live at the Sands. And then every time I'd find something a little different, it was
so great. The Sands is proud to present a man and his music.
Yeah. That's the intro. Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Hey, Steve Carmichael in the chat. This is a cool question.
Steve.
He wants to know, Billy, if you keep your memorabilia from the band you've been in, for example, what cool stuff did you say from the Eat 'em and Smile? Oh, there you go. Right on the screen.
Great. Oh, I got everything. I saved everything. If we ever do an auction, it's going to be wild. The long leopard coat that I wore on stage, I got that. It's right in the other room. I got the Mr. Big hat and shoes. We lost the cane. I've got everything. My archives are very extensive. Matter of fact, there's a gentleman in Germany who's going to help me with the video portion of the archives. I got videos of everything. I have a full pro shot video of the Eat 'em and Smile show.
Oh boy!
But I don't own it. I have it, but I can't give it to anybody.
Viewing party for the squirrels in the backyard.
Chip and Dale out here.
So, I got to ask you this: all the times that Steve would twirl a guitar around his body, how many times did that guitar fall off his body?
I've seen it once or twice. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah, pretty funny. Yeah, I tried to do it on bass, but somebody's going to get hurt. I better knock it off.
Bass, I mean, that long neck, it's going to hit the ground before it
does. People in the 4th row are ducking,
Hilarious. All right, what else you got?
Wow.
Well, how much time we do something on here every once in a while. It's called like a, what do we call it?
A speed round?
Speed round.
Speed round, rapid fire questions. You get this or that. You got to choose. And if there's any ones you really don't want to mention, or
I'll take a sip before that happens.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought this up because this would be a great one to do.
Dude, a lot of people always tell me like, man, you didn't do a rapid fire. You didn't do a rapid fire. And a lot of times,
rapid fire. Come on.
I just forget or whatever. So, all right, we're gonna set the clock here for about 2 minutes. We're gonna give it 2 minutes because we got some good ones on here. Now these are just random questions, but we're gonna go for it. All right, here we go.
All right.
Van Halen 1 or 5150?
1.
Football or baseball?
Football.
Led Zeppelin or AC/DC?
AC/DC.
Dogs or cats?
Both, but I love cats.
Terminator 1 or Terminator 2?
1. I'll go with the original.
To drill or not to drill?
Drill. Drill, baby, drill.
Would you rather watch golf or watch grass grow?
Grass grow.
Waffles or pancakes?
Pancakes.
CD or vinyl?
CD.
CD or streaming?
I don't, but I get in trouble for that.
CD or streaming?
CD.
Blonde or brunette?
Brunette. My wife's from Milan, Italy.
You better answer that question that way then. Three Stooges or Marx Brothers?
Oh, I grew up with the Three Stooges, but I love the Marx Brothers, but I'll take the Three Stooges.
Regular Doritos or Cool Ranch?
Regular. Ranch, nothing. I despise ranch.
You don't...
Dave!
I swear. Blue cheese. Why have ranch? You get a blue cheese dressing. It'd be great.
We know the answer to this, but tour or studio?
Tour.
Christmas or Halloween?
Halloween.
Hulk Hogan or The Rock?
I'll go with The Rock.
Boxers or tighty whities?
Oh, man.
Not on girls, on men.
That's a weird question.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Coffee or tea?
I'll go for coffee, though I like tea.
Johnny Beane or Dave Nesdahl? Oh, sorry, we're out of time.
Who are they?
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
What'd I do?
Best answer to that one.
We're nobody.
Just kidding.
oh.
So there's our
Johnny Beane.
rapid fire whatever questions, and some of them, hey, you know.
Yeah, Zeppelin or AC/DC. I grew up on Led Zeppelin. I love that band, but unfortunately, the radio plays. All right, rock and roll by Led Zeppelin. Been a long time. Oh God, I've heard that 100,000 million times. Please don't ever. It's becoming a legal song. Hey, you want to jam? Yeah, let's jam. What are you gonna play? Rock and roll by Led Zeppelin. I'm not playing. I'm not jamming. Sorry, I can't do it. Just too much. I heard it a million times. And AC/DC, though any band would love to have one song of theirs played constantly.
Yeah.
To Be With You, go for it. I love that. But AC/DC, I really love that band, and it meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
So the projects that never worked out, the reason is because somebody walked in and said, "Hey, let's play rock and roll," and you're like, "I'm out."
Say, okay, yeah. Well, for this new band, let's play rock and roll by Led Zeppelin. It'll be very nice. I'll call an Uber. I'll see you later.
What if Jimmy Page asked you to play?
Was that?
What if Jimmy Page asked you to play that song?
Well, I'd say it. I'd say yes, of course, because he deserves people obeying his requests.
That's awesome.
Mark Churchman asks, "What made you scallop your frets for the first time?"
I knew about fret scalloping in the 70s. A friend of mine, Chris Vorse, he had his PhD in analytical philosophy. Yep. And he was a lot of people get a lot of education, but it never shows. On him, it showed. He was a very, very erudite, educated, amazing guy. He had a Les Paul that was completely scalloped. Every fret was the wood was taken out and let a little scoop there, like the scallops on a scallop shell. That's where they comes from. So now on mine, if you look closely, you can see these are scooped out, but they're only halfway across. Only because on a bass, you could never push this, and it's done so that you don't touch any wood. It's just string and your finger. There's no wood. You're not touching any wood there. But on these strings, you could never push that string down into the wood. It's too thick and too strong. You could never do it. So why go all the way across? Plus, you're weakening the neck by losing wood. So I just went with the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and did it like that. And it helps a little bit. Sometimes you want to do really high. Get that high. I get that. I get up to a high G. Bending strings up high helps a little bit to get under there. It's not really necessary. I can do it without it. But then we did a tour. I didn't have anything scalloped, and we did a tour with Yngwie in '85, Tallis and Yngwie. What a riot we had. And Ing's guitars was completely scalloped. So I went back to my hotel room with my bass, my original P bass with my Dremel Moto tool. I always carried a set of tools with me. One reason was because guys in rock bands had such a bad reputation. A lot of hotels, they didn't really want to rent a room to you. They're thinking, "Oh God, what's going on?" So in order to counteract that, I'd fix things in the hotel. So the maid would come in and "Hey, this light wasn't working before." That's okay. I got my soldering gun on and fixed it. So just to counteract all
Awesome.
the bad, I had fixed things in the hotel.
What a great story.
So where was I? So I took my Dremel Moto, took the strings off, and it went halfway. Now on the last one, it caught and went across the fret. So I thought, "Oh no!" So unfortunately, it didn't dig in too deep. I managed to sand it down. That's far. That's enough with the Dremel Moto tool. Thank you very much. So now that they're done on Yamaha, they're done correctly and properly with the right tools and done with finesse rather than my hotel room Dremel Moto tool incident.
Oh man, I would have loved to watch the zip right down the. Oh man, no! What did I do?
Oh.
That's when you think of what was I thinking? Why did I even?
I know. That's what everyone else would have said to me. What were you thinking?
Yeah, and I think the fret markers on that bass is a great. They're a great idea too, especially up where you where you
Yeah, they outline the scallop.
Yeah.
All that's black there is all wood that's removed here.
yeah.
And then they duplicate it all the way up and down. But there's the rest of the neck is just normal, regular.
Mhm.
Well, I think a lot of people still think that like all those black inlays are scalloped. I think I know, but some people think.
How weird! Yeah,
like all those frets are scalloped. Why only scallop those ones, but they're not?
Yeah, that'd be weird, huh?
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be a. Yeah, it's a funny thing. I did all my own work on my own basis from all the early years. So then when Yamaha did this bass, they took everything I changed and did it correctly and put it into one instrument. And it really has been a great help to me to have this kind of consistency. And the ones I play are actual factory instruments. It's got its serial number and everything on there. So it's not a custom shop version. Some of the special ones they do, like the Winery Dogs bass made out of plexiglass in the color of wine, that of course is a custom shop. But all the regular ones I play, they came just as you buy them in the music store. Because when I first did the deal with Yamaha, a lot of guys were doing signature instruments, and you'd see them playing their koa wood, bubinga wood, beautiful masterpiece, and then you go to the store and it was not the same. So these are exactly the same. This is exactly how it comes from the factory, and that's what I play. The integrity of that is important to me.
And how long have you been with Yamaha for now?
Well, it's a 30-year anniversary coming up. So I started with them in 80.
Jesus.
1980. Well, the 30th anniversary of this bass. I started with them actually in the winter of 84. So we started talking, and then and they didn't, I was just some guy they saw in a magazine. They were kind enough to contact me. And then the next summer I got the gig with Dave, and everybody was happy about that.
They contact you, say, hey, we see what you're doing with your bass. You need a little help there?
We got something that's better than a Drumomoto tool.
There's a guitar for the practicing musician where you and George Lynch are on the front cover and you're playing a pink Yamaha bass. Do you still have that?
Yeah. That bass was the purple one with the vibrato bar that the guy mentioned earlier, gentlemen. Mm-hmm. But the pink one was used in a lot of magazines. That's the BB3000. That's at Yamaha now getting refurbished. So I think it's been around and beat up quite a bit because it was on tour in the early days. So having them refurbish that for me, that should be home soon. And as long as it's done by the factory itself, yeah, hopefully it won't lose any value if it had any to start with. But,
well, it's yours. I mean, it's never going to use value. It's yours.
I love the bass, and that's what's going to be.
Since they're doing it themselves, it won't void the warranty, right?
I hope not. I forgot to fill out the card.
That was the question of the night, Jay. You won. That's awesome.
What else you got?
Caleb's got a cool question about the creation of the elephant gun bass line.
That was a tough one because on guitar you can do hammer on things all over the place because guitar strings are these thin little, like you cut cheese with a Velveeta cheese cutter. The thin little bass strings are big and manly and huge and monstrous and require some strength. So the initial lick of it, I'm just kidding. We love guitar players. I pick on them. And that was a Steve lick. And so we do that break in the song. We're working it out in Dave's basement of his house. Me, Greg, and Steve. And Steve would do the... which is it's not the way I do my tapping licks because I need a lot of strength when I do that. I need to really hit hard. I double my fingers up so that they hit twice as hard. So I can't do little things like that. So Dave heard the lick that Steve did. He goes, wow, that's cool. Billy, you double it. And then, here we go. So Dave went upstairs and goes, Steve, help me. What in the world are you doing? So we figured it out from there. We played it together, and it was cool. I love that song. And playing it live was a riot on Even Smile, too. It was very cool.
Well, you just
Yeah,
played the
that's great.
part of the intro from Addicted to That Rush.
Yeah.
Any kind of same story with that as far as who came up with it and the whole, intro thing?
I think, well, that little trill that, even if I turn the bass off, I play really hard enough to hear it with no amp at all. So it's, I know that part was mine. I'm not sure who came up with that. I think I did, but I might be wrong.
Hey, well, Billy's not here. Take credit for it. Or Paul's not here. Take credit for it.
All right, I hereby take credit for it.
Wait. Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul.
Who wrote that?
Paul. Hey, Paul.
Well, because the song was mine anyway, so that's why I'm thinking it might have been mine. But the good thing about the early Mr. Big records, we all contributed to each other's songs a lot. So it could be Paul.
But what a way to start! Not even a record, but just the first record of just like, watch this.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap!
I remember that one. I remember the first time I heard that. It would have been on Q102.
Right on.
John Terry's station. That's
Beautiful.
That's where I would have heard
John
that.
does it again. If you speak with him ever, give him my best.
Man, when's the last time you talked to him?
Oh, it's been a decade or more,
Oh.
decades. Long
Wow.
time.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in at least 2 of those.
Oh, cool.
So
Well,
we'll have to find him.
Someone's got to get a hold of him, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Right on.
Awesome.
All right, what else you got? Come on.
Boy, you're
Johnny.
glutton for punishment.
Come on. Let's see. Somebody asked me to ask you, when did you first add distortion to the bass, and what kind of distortion was it? What kind of pedal?
It wasn't a pedal. It was just I had 2 SVTs, one for each pickup. One, I turned the bass off. This pickup here, it doesn't have a lot of low end to it, but it has all of the but the other pickup,
All the low.
regular, normal kind of bass tone, super deep, that's this pickup. So back in the early days when I had first I had one SVT, one super bassman Fender amp was my first amp. Plugged both, one into each channel. Made one channel bassy, one channel trebly. Then when I got an SVT, I did the same thing again. Then when I got a second SVT, I made one SVT, just the high-end channel, the high-frequency thing, turned the bass off, and the other SVT was all super deep low-end. So when I would do the screaming pick out of that, you still always had low-end underneath it because that other amp was always running from another pickup. So in a 3-piece band, which Talus was, I could get away with moving around and there was still low end and there was still bass happening. So that was a big help in a 3-piece band. So the original distortion was just that SVT turned on 10 with the bass all the way off and a little bump in the mid-range. Then I started, the gear didn't hold up too well. The amp would fry easily. Blow speakers all the time. So then I started going to more pro audio stuff and had custom preamps made. But this was before there were distortion pedals, but nothing specifically for bass back then at all. So I just generally used input overload for all the distortion, and I didn't really ever use pedals at all up until I think Siri thought I said her name. She does it all the time out of nowhere. Are you serious? But but now EBS does a pedal that kind of mimics a whole bunch of gear. You can get a totally clean tone, mix in the distortion without losing the clean, so you always have articulation and low end, and that's without the double pickup setup too. So it's and a lot of other guys have done a similar thing. The double output on the bass, I read that John Paul Jones had a jazz bass, ran 2 pickups into 2 amps. All of the alembic basses, which are the first readily available handmade fancy bass, they all had dual output for each pickup. Rickenbacker had Rico Sound output, which was dual output.
Yeah.
I saw Mel Shacker from Grand Funk had his jazz bass with the big EBO pickup on there too. So it wasn't an unknown thing to do that split pickup into two different sound sources. Same way when you see a PA system, you see tweeters and woofers, because the tweeters can only do so much. No speaker can do the full range. So let the bass speakers do bass and tweeters do the high end. It's a more efficient way of doing it. So it's kind of an analogy to that, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And to everyone else, okay, wake up. We stop talking about gear.
Well, no, because now you got me pumped up because, like as an engineer, like if you're mixing like hard rock or metal, especially, I'll take a DI bass track and I'll double it. You know what I mean? One will handle the low end. You can compress the shit out of it.
Yep.
To get the oomph to stay there, and then I'll make a high. Like you said, bump the mids, have the trebly with
the articulation,
and you just blend it in, and it's like holy crap. This bass tone is awesome. So it's cool that you're able to do that with just
Yeah, early on we'd open up for bands, and I think the band from Canada, I forgot the name, pretty big band too, and then I saw him on like Don Kirshner's rock concert, and the guy had his humbucker pickup on his P bass. I thought, I'm onto something. I guess they would do that, and then later on, Mr. Big, we'd open up for some bigger bands, and then I'd see them like a year later, and they had the bass player put an amp and an anvil case turn up on 10 with a mic in it, and the front of the house we mixing the distortion bass in. So it is an effective thing, not for everybody. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than just a clean, perfect, uncompressed, great tone. That's a beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful thing that's useful. But in a lot of situations, if you need that distortion for a little extra, whatever, just character or color or whatever,
or when you're fighting, distorted guitars and huge drums and in a dense metal or rock mix, like bass needs to cut through somehow.
Yeah, it does.
Wolfie's doing it. Wolfgang's doing it.
Great.
Yeah. I noticed that you have the Switchcraft silent ends on your bass. What cables are you using?
Oh yeah, these. They're just I just go to Tour Supply, which is a company. They have an outlet here in Nashville. They got it in LA and a couple other places. And just say, I need 2 30-footers. Make with silent ends. Yeah, make them for me.
I love those silent ends. I have them on
really
a bunch of my cables. Yeah.
For those that don't know, when you unplug it, it doesn't make any noise.
No.
It's got a little switch on there, so when you plug it in, you're back in business. Pretty cool.
Dave, that was the best imitation of that sound I've ever heard.
Because in my lifetime of playing, I've done it so many times. That a lot. I was like, can't do that anymore.
All his guitars.
Yeah, 2 things about playing live. Like, one is don't tune out loud, and 2, don't.
Right, exactly. Yep. The tuning thing kind of drives me crazy because I see guys, they're like constantly stopping and tuning in between every song, tuning. And I've been playing for a long, long time, and I've seen bands do a whole show and never tune. Mm-hmm. And if you stretch your strings out correctly, they're not going to go out of tune. I can do pretty much a whole show, get done, check the bass. It might be wavering a little bit, but it's not out of tune. Right. So when I put the string on, with everything I have, I pull as hard as I can against that where the string is wrapped around here, as hard as possible, and then check the tuning. It goes out a little bit. Now when I pull it, so you keep pulling it, and it won't go flat anymore. Then you do the whole show like that, and man, it's in tune the whole time, and it just saves just the aspect. That's a great thing I learned from David Lee Roth is it's show business. You're entertaining. The camera's on you. When you're on stage, consider the camera's on you. And you never see somebody on TV who doesn't know they're on camera and they're looking around and picking their nose and God knows what else. You're on. When you're on, that's the great thing about live is you're on all the time the moment you walk out there. So if another pet peeve, people turn around, bend over, ass to audience, and don't ever do that. Don't ever bend over and show the audience your ass. That's a terrible thing to do.
I think you did that in the Going Crazy video.
Unless you're David Lee Roth, yeah.
That's a different thing.
I think you guys all did that in the Going Crazy video.
Probably. Or if you're going to drink on stage, to have like a plastic cup sitting there. I'm early days. We would go through a whole night. I would never have a drink, never have a sip of anything. Singing, playing. Now everybody's got like 10 water bottles. They're sipping all the time. It's got to be. Oh, you got to hydrate. Got to hydrate. You know, the pioneers went across America on the Conestoga wagons without 50 bottles. Somehow they made it. But it's just that distraction that kind of
now they're all over the drum riser.
Oh, I know, it's crazy.
After every song, somebody's strolling over. Yeah.
Ask the audience, pen over, drink. I'm venting, sir.
Michael Smith is a great friend of ours, and he says, "Does Billy remember the Rising Sun Club in Yonkers, New York?"
Mo.
And if he's no, and if so,
no, Mo was the guy.
Mo.
He was the owner.
Yeah. Can he tell a story about the venue? And he says he met Billy. Michael met Billy a few times. Then and again, a year's Winter NAMM.
Yeah.
Year's Winter NAMM.
Yeah, the NAMM show, the National Association of Music Merchants. Everything that gets sold in a music store, the companies that make all that stuff, they display it every year for music stores to come in and decide what they want to buy for the year. But that's how it started. Now it's become, then musicians would come in to meet the manufacturers and do things, and then fans would come in to meet the musicians. So now there's about, 250, 300,000 people show up each year at NAMM. Unbelievable. Hundreds of thousands. Yeah. And now it's turned into a giant thing. Pretty amazing. So I've met a lot of people there. I go there pretty much every year with Yamaha, DiMarzio, Roto Sound, Hipshot, Line 6, Hartkey, of course. All the companies I represent, I go see them and say hello. But the Rising Sun, Mo was the guy. And I'd never seen him without a cigar, but I think his mouth probably deformed from holding it in his mouth full time all the time. And it wasn't me, but a friend of mine tells a story that they took Steve Harris in there one night and introduced him to Mo. They go, Mo, this is Steve Harris. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. He plays with a band called Iron Maiden. He goes, all right, nice to meet you. He goes, I got Tuesdays open. He didn't know that Iron Maiden was his huge band.
That's fantastic.
Oh, man, that's good.
Man. So
I remember Mo, right on, Michael Smith.
Yeah. So you're DiMarzio and Dorsey. That neck pickup, is that an X2NB?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's a DiMarzio.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they make it specifically for this bass, so I'm not sure what the number is. But this bass, particularly because it had a different neck to body that needed to be a little thinner, so they had to go into production and do a different thing for this. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because on my new Attitude bass is coming out, the 30-year anniversary. Also on it will be the new DiMarzio pickups that I designed with Larry DiMarzio. And they're contoured in a very special way, and they got a whole bunch of new features that are pretty awesome. I'll do some posts about it. If anybody's interested, they can write to me, and I'll give you some info about it. But quite a revolutionary change on the pickup.
Is this breaking news right here, Billy?
Kinda. No, it's been kind of. All right, breaking right here.
Do you have that bass handy where you can show?
I could run and get it. Shall I run and get it?
Would you mind? Do you mind?
I wouldn't mind a bit. Let me first put this
He's
down.
going.
I'll get it, and I'll show you the whole story here. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
And the refrigerator is very close to it too, so I'll grab a beer.
In the bathroom.
I'll be right back.
Four of them.
I'll be right back too.
Well, let's go through the. Let's say hi to some people in here, Dave. You want to run through some names?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go from the end backwards. Maurice Douglas, Madalini, Madalena. Sorry, Hugh Caldwell, Michael Smith, of course. Tessie Switch is here. Joe Hervey, 1984. Marianne Sheehan, of course. Pacific Lights, William Spruce. Steve Carmichael, Ayako Shireen. I'm sorry if I said your name incorrectly. Forgive me. Jay Turner, Garbage. It's our friend Alan. Fender Guru, Absolute Mayhem, Ned Schaff, Big Time, Citizen Kane, Amanda Coombs. And everyone else.
All right, I can't hear you yet. Hold on. There we are.
We were just saying hello to more people in the chat.
Wonderful.
And we see that you've got the Corona.
Yeah, I was getting a little dry, a little parched.
So that bass, is that a production model as well, or is that one a custom shop version of it?
This is the prototype, the number one version of it. Oh, it's so shiny. Look at that.
Oh, wow. Look at that, man.
It has, now I'm not sure they're going to all come with the ashtray, but my original P-Bass had that on there all the time to prevent me from cutting myself. This metal is done in chrome. And here's the contoured, it's kind of hard to see. Let me see how I can.
Oh, I can see it. Yeah, I see it very well, actually.
It's contoured. And normally there's a little thing here that the screw goes in.
Mm-hmm.
And when you play it, your thumb generally goes here, but that screw thing is in the way. So we sunk it down way underneath. So now that's not there at all anymore. It's just a great spot for your thumb, and it's all contoured. And the pickups are actually shielded in metal. So this black is actually metal. So it shields it electronically, so you don't get any interference. And then the wires coming off, normally just single wires come off pickups, they're in a shield also. So it's super quiet.
Wow.
And Larry DeMarzio is a dear friend, and he's just a genius with pickups for forever. And then they covered this one in chrome to make it look like my old P-Bass, which had a big Gibson EBO chrome pickup. They did the tortoiseshell pickguard. The neck to body joint is one of the special features, which a lot of people don't really care too much about. But there's actually two screws that go in this way, grab the neck and pull it into the socket.
Whoa.
And then the neck does not move, because a lot of times I do like a bendy vibrato thing. My old P-Bass, the neck would shift in the socket this way.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's rock solid. But it's a beauty.
Is that a roasted maple neck?
It is roasted. I don't think they're going to be able to offer the new one with a roasted neck, because it just puts the price way out of range. So unfortunately, it was a whole other step that took a lot of money. And in fact, I play this bass, and there's something different about it, and I think it's a roasted neck. It's okay, but I actually almost prefer the other maple, honestly. So I'll know when I get one with a regular maple neck. I think there's two prototypes. Maybe I get them. I hope so. And, that's got a regular maple neck on it, but it's going to be finished in a way that makes it look a little darker, because that's kind of what my original P-Bass neck looks like. It was beat, and fried and toasted. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they did a great job on it. Yamaha's been a wonderful company. There's a lot of it's hard to find a bad bass by any company. The new Fenders are great too. I went with Yamaha because at the time in 1984, when I wanted to replace my original P-Bass with something, Fender was in kind of disarray as a company, and the instruments weren't what they should have been. Mm-hmm. I'm glad to see them back now, as good as they have ever been. But at the time when I went to Yamaha, their quality control was second to none. So that's where I'll stay. So they did a great job, but it's
beautiful. It certainly is beautiful. I'm not a bass player, and I want one.
Cool. Yeah, they did a great job on it. I'm very pleased. Again, you pointed out that it's the longest running signature bass. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
no idea.
Awesome. I can't think of another. That's as long running.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Right. Larry Mitchell's here. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Larry Mitchell.
Hey, Larry.
All right. Who else?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
You have a very accomplished and distinguished career, playing with some of the finest musicians on the planet. How do you stay fresh and motivated?
Well, like I said before, I'm still excited. I don't know how I stay fresh and motivated, but I do, and I'm supremely grateful for that. Whatever built that into me, I don't know how, but I'm excited about playing. I'm excited about picking up a bass and going for it. I got them all over the house. I'm always playing, and that's really the thing that's been an incredible gift that I appreciate, to be like that. And then sometimes, quite frankly, some people say, well, sometimes you got to be sick of it sometimes. And I go, sometimes maybe I am, but I just do it anyway. And sometimes I'm tired and it hurts, and playing bass is painful, and I got to put it on, and it hurts, and I'm sore, and my arms are sore, and my fingers are sore, and I don't feel like doing it. I said, you know what? Just start, start doing some exercises. Just do some exercises and hit it. 45 minutes goes by, 50 minutes, an hour, all of a sudden, hey, starting to work again. Doesn't hurt as much. Starting to sound like almost like music again. Mm-hmm. And then the next hour, starting to enjoy it and get back. And since that's happened so many times, even though I'm beat or hurting or tired or jet lagged or whatever else, I'll purposely just say, you know what? Just force yourself to pick the thing up and let's go. And within about an hour, I'm flying. I'm having a great time, having a riot. And sometimes it takes that kind of discipline to force yourself to do it. And anybody that really, art, any kind of artist in any art field, painting, poetry, grand piano, whatever it is you do, sometimes you just gotta force it. And when you do, it'll come around. It'll happen. But that's the thing. That's the hump you got to get over to get to where you want to go. Because there's going to be times you're going to hate doing this. No, I don't. I could go out with my friends. We're having a great time tonight. It'd be really cool. Or stay home. That's why I didn't have much social life when I lived in Buffalo. Any night off, I'd be home practicing. The other guys would be out there. I'd be back, crazy ass thing.
Well, you have platinum records and they don't.
Well,
but it's hard. It was hard work that got him there.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's the one thing that we talk about this before, but
you gotta hit it.
People that say how do I get there? How do I do? Well, it's
pound it.
Yeah,
10,000 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That 10,000 hours. Every time someone mentions it, it's more realistic.
Actually, and mine's probably at about 25 to 30,000 lifetime total. I'm sure.
Wow.
I'm about 5,000 gigs. I don't know how many records I've made, but I know whenever there's an autograph thing, somebody holds it. I go, "Are you sure I played on that?" It says right here.
Let me see that.
There's my name. I guess I did.
That's fantastic.
So you just had to, and how bad can it be? You're forcing yourself to play music. It's not like bricklaying or, doing roofing in a hot summer day. It's not really that bad, and it really is a joy. I encourage everybody to play. Everybody on the chat, if you're not an actual player, get a guitar, play some chords, a couple songs. It's great. It's a great therapy, fantastic therapy. Mm-hmm. And you're sitting at home stuck now anyway. Why not get a nice guitar off Amazon and have at it?
Well, yeah. Dave's got a bunch behind him. Ask him for one.
There you go.
You guys can have my 335. Okay?
Woo! What year is that?
It's a new one, fairly new. It's a custom shop 2017 or 18 63 ES335.
Wow,
beautiful. I got a bunch of cool guitars, but I play probably 5 to 6 hours a day now.
Great.
So, yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, great.
I have one last question, and then
yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm out of questions. Everyone else is going to have to ask.
Okay.
How important is it for players to develop their musical vocabulary? And do you have any advice to players to constantly challenge themselves to grow?
Yes. Well, vocabulary is important. By vocabulary, you can mean several things. One, the language you use to describe what's going on. So when you're playing with other musicians, you can tell them what you mean. Or just the general amount of words you speak, which is what vocabulary is in language. So you can say every little phrase or every little move is a word or a part of a sentence structure, if you will. So the greater vocabulary you have in language, the more capable you are of describing things down to the most finite detail and explaining it in perfection. That's why when you see legal stuff, it's written out with so many words because you have to say exactly this thing. It can be no ambiguity about it whatsoever. So the more vocabulary you have, the more you can directly say something. Sometimes it's a couple words, very simple thing. That's all it would. So vocabulary, very, very important. And the second half again was.
Do you have any advice for players to constantly challenge themselves to grow?
Yeah, find stuff that you suck at. Find stuff you can't do. Find things that are out of your range and start throwing at them. And I'll sit down sometimes and I'll hear some. I heard this mandolin player the other day playing Bach perfectly, just mind blowing. And a little mandolin, and I thought, wow, who am I kidding? So I looked up the piece. I'm starting to work on it. Find some music that's impossible. I start to throw at it. I learned like a whole bunch of Bach, Brandon Birkin shows. So part of the Brandon Birkin concertos. Done, I think, on cello or viola, or with strings in general. And because it's done on cello, it's tuned in fifths. So you got to make these jumps, these crazy jumps like this in order to play it. It's because it's tuned differently than a bass. So that was a challenge. So when I sat down with that, I did, the speed I played. I slugged my way through it until finally I got a little bit smooth, a little bit more. And then next thing you know, I learned a whole bunch of a lot of things from the Brandenburg concertos. I highly recommend them as a series of concertos that pretty focused. And the lines you learn there are valuable in all kinds of music, from bluegrass to death metal and everything in between. So that's a cool thing to challenge yourself with. Is find some, and then go to some genre of music that you have nothing to do with. Get some Brazilian samba thing. There's this timing and feel and move to it that it doesn't exist anywhere else. Learn that. Indian music. I love a lot of Indian music. Odd, strange scales and quarter tones and all kinds of.
I would imagine you would need a multi scaled instrument to play that.
Oh, you can do it by Benny. Because of wackiness. Awesome. So it's just a minor amount of Indian flavor there. But if you listen to some great Indian musicians, it's inspiring. It's really cool. So find impossible stuff and go for it. That's a challenge. When you get done, you go back to playing your regular rock songs. Somewhere in there, it's going to be a little thing that sets you apart because you got you did that one little move that's from Indian music or from Bulgarian choir music or whatever. When Richie Kotzen played with Stanley Clarke and Lenny White in Virtue, Richie explained to me that he was a little taken back because he's not a jazz guy. And these guys are the heavy jazz guys. These guys are way out of my range by a long shot, way out of almost everybody's range. And Richie said, so Stanley, I'm not really a jazz guy. And Stanley just said to him, learn Giant Steps. Giant Steps is a song a piece by John Coltrane, which is known to be the biggest, the toughest song you're ever going to try to play ever as a musician, as an instrumentalist, will be Giant Steps. It's impossible. And so Richie went and learned it. And now when I hear Richie play, I swear I hear the valves of a saxophone opening and closing. Because he has this phrasing that's a little bit of a saxophone that sounds a little bit like what he got. So just by stepping out, challenging himself to do the impossible, whether he finally ended up performing the whole piece, I don't know. But enough that he got the flavor of that it alters what he's doing. And go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, please.
And so I think it's good for all musicians to, pick something, even a little obscure. Bluegrass banjo players, mind-blowing stuff, but they do phrasing and things that we don't do on regular guitar or fretted things in rock. So learn some things like that, apply it, and he's got a different twist to him. He doesn't sound like every other guitar player doing sweep picking and pentatonic scales. So there's a way to pull out of that a little bit, and when you challenge yourself with that, I think you can really move into a unique thing that'll set you apart from others, and that's how you make a name, and that's how you have a voice, I think.
Do you think that's when Richie stopped playing with a guitar pick and just started using his fingers?
No, that was after that for a while. I think he told me he was playing and just doing a whole bunch of shows, getting kind of bored. What can he do to challenge himself? And he said, I'm going to do the show without a pick. And he did. And now there's a totally unique, cool tonality, first of all, because when you're playing with your fingers, this tone is completely different. Mm-hmm. Tonality and feel, and the licks that he can play that he normally could only play with a pick, he can't do it. So he's got to do an alternative. So now he's got a whole different vocabulary of things that he's doing because he's playing with his fingers. Mm-hmm. Same with bass. I could go do the opposite. I pick up a pick and start to play. It's not what I normally do. So it forces me to go to a different spot. And suddenly now I got a different flavor that I can pull out of my pickpocket and play with a pick. It's a different thing. So go ahead.
Are there any songs that you do play with a pick?
I used to do the solo in. We did the My Generation medley off Live at Leeds, and the guitar player would run over to me and dramatically hand me his pick when it came up to the. I'd go. And play it true Atwas style with a pick, and but it made me do something different. It forced me into a corner. I had to figure it out. I'm not a pick player, so it's good for you.
That's great.
And that's why a lot of people talk about the comfort zone. You know, you can get into a comfort zone, and it's really nice. You're doing your thing, and it works, and it's cool and everything. And suddenly, you know, a meteor crashes through your roof, and it's different. You're out of your comfort zone, and it really can help sometimes to expand your playing, give you a real voice and a real style that's identifiable. And I love stepping out of the bounds, you know, stepping over the line a little bit, seeing what comes of it.
When you guys mentioned the whole vocabulary thing before, it kind of reminded me of a video I saw with Steve Vai a couple of years back when he talks about, you know, I know you can kind of like, this might have different meanings and stuff, but the way I kind of interpreted when you guys were talking about it was, you know, Steve was like talking about playing a certain pattern or a melody.
Yeah.
But how can you make it sound unique or original? Well, instead of just hitting the note, slide into it, bend down to it, use the bar, like just different things you can do to certain notes to make it sound original. And, you know, I remember ever since I watched that interview or video with him, like I kind of put that, I'm like, wait a minute, okay, this is cool, but what about adding something to this one note to kind of like, you know, make the ear stand up? Like, oh, what did he do there? You know, so
very good point.
Is really, really cool, you know.
Mr. Big did a remake of Wild World, the Cat Stevens song.
Yeah.
Had a hit with it. It was very nice. But in the song, turn the distortion off. So. And then, of course, I do a lot of bending in it. Mm-hmm. And somebody who was a real famous bass player called me up. He was a fretless player, six-string player, Steve Bailey. Amazing player, six-string fretless bass. Forget it. I don't know how he does it. He goes, man, I heard you're playing fretless on Wild World. I go, no, it's not. It's my bass, but I was bending. Bend all those notes instead, and it sounds, when you hear a bass bend a note like that, it sounds like a fretless bass. So yeah. I fooled Steve Bailey, so I thought I passed the test there.
Yeah, that not only passes the test, that's 100.
Yeah, that was a great cover too. That was a great cover.
Cool. Yeah, we did really well with it. It was funny because we did Wild World by Cat Stevens, who had converted to the Islamic faith, and right at the time was a whole bunch of stuff going on with the USA, and with the Islamic situation, whatever it is. And a couple radio stations, they were going to not play it because Cat Stevens was now converted to Islam. So we thought, oh man, oh God, we need this now, right? And so we thought, but we stuck by our guns and said, we love Cat Stevens. We don't care about his personal faith. We're cool. He has a right to believe what he wants to believe. We love him, and we're going to stick up for him. And it kind of, that didn't turn into much of an issue. Then we played in Indonesia, which is an Islamic nation. We didn't know, but they were watching the whole thing. And we went down there, and we were heroes because we stuck up for one of their guys, which is, no matter what side you are on that, I understand there's a lot of controversy here that I don't mean to address, but just was really wonderful to see how thankful they were that someone would, at a time when they're getting bashed quite a bit, maybe appropriate, maybe not. Nevertheless, it was quite an interesting cultural situation at the time that we went down there, and they became our friends. And I get more email now from Indonesia than anywhere in the world. It's funny.
That's great.
Whose idea was it to cover that song?
Paul had a song that went do 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 dare dare dare, and it was pretty cool. But I remember me and Pat looking at each other like, it's kind of cool, but it's a little bit heavy on the do 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 do. So we submitted the record to Atlantic, and of course they hated it. This is Bump Ahead. So we need another song. We need another To Be With You, and we didn't want to do another To Be With You. So that do 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 do, I go, that reminds me of that part in the Wild World. So we said, well, yeah, what about? And so Paul went, found it, figured it out, came in. We adjusted the key for Eric's voice because it's way low for him. And bang, we put it on. How about if we add this to the record? Is that okay? Okay, reluctantly. And sure enough, again, we managed to have a hit against Atlantic Records' wishes.
How many times does that happen? A band has to tune up to do a cover. Nowadays, everyone's like, I can't sing that high. We got to tune down, man.
Well, it's not an easy key to sing, and the original is in C. So yeah, that's not easy.
Yeah, it was kind of a. And when you really listen to the original, it was kind of just like kind of a jam, and you hear like a hi-hat once in a while and a snare hit here and there. It wasn't like a straight up, time-keeping thing. But it has a great charm to it. It was really a beautiful song. And a lot of people, it meant a lot to them. And it was one of those songs I get a lot of email from people. I was in the middle of this and that, and I'd listen to Wild World to make me feel better. And, it's kind of touching.
That's got to be kind of cool to take a song and really make it sound like you guys. And that's I think a real special thing because it is different. Yeah, it's like it's more rock and stuff, but at the same time, it's awesome.
Well, we got lucky with a great song, and I'm a firm believer that when it's a great song, you can do it in any style, pretty much anywhere. Take these chains by Judas Priest. I could hear Sinatra singing that. Take these chains off. Take them off of my heart. Okay, I'll stop singing.
No, but you're right. You're right.
Hey, we lost 100 people as soon as I started singing.
No, but how many times? I mean, I hear covers all the time, and it's like the original. Like what are you doing? But there's certain covers that bands they make it their own, and it's really really kick ass.
Judas Priest, Diamonds and Rust. Have you heard the original?
No. Probably not.
By Joan Baez.
Oh, no kidding.
I haven't.
Mind blowing.
Wow.
It's spooky. And how about the song One by Three Dog Night, the original version by Nilsson? Oh my God. It's amazing to hear what people do. And that's what early on when I heard people changing songs, when I first heard the Yardbirds on their Having a Rave with the Yardbirds record, the other side was all live versions of I'm a Man. A pretty simple song, was just really straight. But on the live version, are going crazy, and while the harmonica's blowing the solos all over. You really hear what somebody can do with a song. Here's a song like this. Well, let's take the borders and move it over. And it was a great lesson early on. That and Got Live If You Want It, the first live Rolling Stones record. And they would come in like blazing on these, all these songs that you knew to be the simple little studio version. They were pounding away, and it was a great example of what you can do to a song. How many different ways can be played. Pretty cool.
But it can be a slippery slope. I mean, I'm sure we've all heard covers when a band does it a complete, not a 180, but you know what I mean, like in a different.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are they? But sometimes it really works.
Yeah, it's a matter of taste.
Mm-hmm.
So Hugh Caldwell in the chat says, he asks Billy, do you know the great bass player Russell Jackson who played with B.B. King?
I don't know Russell Jackson, but I'm sure he was a genius because B.B. King was, and I'm sure B.B. surrounded himself with amazing people. I don't know. I'm sorry to say, and I'll look into that. I was a big James Jamerson fan. Every bass player from my generation was, and that whole era of music where we heard so much music from Black America that a lot of white bands took. And I wish there was a way that I always try to give them credit because, man, a lot of those guys, they got nothing and they did everything. They created a world that we all benefited from, and none of them were really compensated like they should have been. So that was always a special place in my heart for them.
Yeah. Real quick. Let's talk Humble Pie.
Right on.
30 Days in the Hole.
Well, as soon as you said that, I went to.
Another great song. Yeah.
We played that in Tallis for 1,000 years.
Yeah. So 30 Days in the Hole.
Yeah.
First of all, your version of that with Mr. Big is outstanding.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Your version is what made me want to play that song in every cover band I've ever been in.
I didn't know you were going to stop.
I never heard the original. The only version I know is Mr. Big's version.
Mr. Big's version is a cleaner, a little more overdriven version, a little more rockish, but it's really the same thing, almost exactly the same.
Yeah, but there's a lot of Humble Pie people that would look at that because that Humble Pie at Alive at the Fillmore, oh my God, what a record. I don't need no doctor in that. Oh,
forget
man.
it. Yeah.
Mind blowing. Mm-hmm. And Steve Marriott's voice. That's why we were lucky because Eric can sing that. When I first heard Eric, the first thing I thought was Paul Rodgers, Steve Marriott. That's what we got here, and that's why I loved his voice so much. But Steve Marriott on the Live at the Fillmore record, Humble Pie.
So whose idea was it?
Smokin', right? Smokin' is the live album.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whose idea was it to record 30 Days in the Hole?
I think it was mine.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was Eric's voice told the story. As soon as I heard him sing it, wow, we got to have him do that. And he nails it. He does that scat, soulful blues thing, just spectacular. Really, really great for things like that. Yeah. And we did live. We always did as an encore song, Baba O'Reilly. And he had to do the Roger Daltrey, but he did it with a little that Paul Rodgers soul in there. It was always a cool combination of things. Pretty funny. Mm-hmm.
Also, what I thought was brilliant was you guys switching instruments for the last song of the night.
Yeah, we did. Well, the last time we did it, I don't know if you saw it, we did Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones.
I mean, seen that, yeah.
And unknown to the band, I got a friend of mine show me how to do the sax solo. So I played in a horn band when I first started. And so I figured out how to, get a tone out of a trumpet, trombone, sax, and I can get a note out of it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And, but I can, I can play, I know what things to hold down to make it work. So unknown to the band, I went and I learned to play the solo. And that song is pretty easy. And that's about it. And then just kind of make noise and wiggle your fingers around. Mm-hmm. So we came out and so we set it up. I had to tell them for sound check and everything like that. So we came out and I played guitar initially and then handed the guitar to Pat Torpy. And we had tape on the back of the neck to show him where to put his fingers because he doesn't play guitar. And the guitar in that song is just tuned to a chord. So all he had to do was move his hand, one finger up and down, and he could do it. I think Eric was on drums and Paul sang lead. And I came out with the freaking saxophone. And the first five, I could. I couldn't find on the saxophone at all. So I would never go up to that note. So finally, one day I know how to get my own dressing room. I started practicing my sax. I'm in solitude. Everybody leaves. So I, hey, what's this bit do? Oh, I found it. So I finally got that note at the very last time we did it, and managed to. And then I promise I'll never pick up the saxophone again.
Great story. Great story.
And now, if there's a party at your house, you want everybody out. I am your man. I whip that thing out, man. I can empty a room in record time.
That's great. That's great. All right, who else has questions?
Wow. Man. Well, let's just say we're at about 3 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So,
Man, I got a 3-year-old downstairs that probably doesn't want to go to bed, but I'm sure, you know.
And plus, it's Rebel's birthday. I got to get him a can of tuna with a candle in it and take a photo for Facebook.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Well, Billy, I got to say, man, I mean, this is probably one of the coolest shows that we've done.
Well, thanks for having me.
Personally, for me, I just got to say the excitement that, you know, I don't want to say anything, you know, whatever, but you've been playing for so long. You've had so many great records, such a long career, but to still see you like passionate and excited about it is just, to me, that's super awesome. You know, it really is.
Well, thank you. I hope to. I like to spread that around. Like I said, when I do my clinics and master classes, it's almost more motivational speaking than anything, because I really, I'm so pleased that I have this kind of passion. I want to spread it around. And what a better way for people to exhibit their passion is through music. It really is. It's the greatest art form. I know. Schopenhauer, as a philosopher, spelled out why music is the greatest art form. But I remember years ago in LA, the public television had a CD giveaway if you donated, and it was just called The Great Art, and that was music. It was just the classical music. It really is the greatest art form, and it affects people like nothing else. And we're all involved in that. You guys and everybody on this chat here as well. We're all involved in that, and it is such the most perfect evidence that there is such a thing as civilization, and that we can be civilized is music, and what barriers it's broken down, and the things it's changed.
You see this back here?
What's that?
I sometimes wonder that if aliens are visiting us, what do they think of our music? That's what goes. That's what I think about when I'm on the toilet sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it is a mind-blowing thing, and for even cultures, when we find like some Amazonian tribe that has never even heard music other than their own indigenous music, and they hear classical music, they're taken with it. They hear it and they get it, and it makes sense to them. It's incredible how universal it is. There's a great book called "This Is Your Brain on Music." I've momentarily forgotten the author's name, but I think I posted about it, and he contacted me at one point. I had a nice back and forth with email, but. What music does to you, like you mentioned earlier, that your son at 3 years old playing in classical music, music really does affect us in a great way. And my mom was on her deathbed, and we were all there at the home where she was, my brother's house, and we're all kind of, it's kind of awkward. We're kind of waiting for my mom to pass, a little awkward. But she had led a great life. She was in no pain. We were all cool. And I had my iTunes collection with me. And my sister Marianne said to me, "Put some Sinatra on." So I did. My mom right away said, "Oh yeah, that was a song that was on and she remembered every detail about it. This is at 87 years old, just about to pass on, and bang, her whole thought process came right back. Her understanding of it, and remembering when she was a kid and going to see him, and she started. Amazing what it did for her right away. And they say in old folks' homes, a lot of times people are, off in a corner and they're on their own and they won't speak and they won't respond. They hear music from when they were 16 years old. Watch what happens. More times you'd be surprised how kind of effect it has on people. So that's why I think it's a good thing to spread passion about music around, and I will continue to do it for as long as I live.
Well, we've talked to guys. We talked about this kind of on the Late Show. I think we touched on it not too long ago. But the like, how many times does it happen where you'll hear a song that you haven't heard in a long time? Like either it'll come on and you're like, all of a sudden, this memories of that summer or something will come back.
Exactly.
Like, I haven't thought of that in X amount of years, and it's like it's just one of those things where you can't really describe it, but it's like it almost programs your brain. Yep. It's awesome.
Pretty amazing. So
yeah.
That's a great thing.
It triggers memories, and it triggers emotions that it's the weirdest thing.
And in order to play an instrument, it requires a brain, mind, thought thing that really is helpful in a lot of other aspects of your mind, your thinking, your well-being, and your emotions. So that's why, again, I say, if you're sitting at home stuck, get a $100 bass from Amazon or a $50 guitar and work out. The guys in AC/DC are amazing, and I never mean to slight them by saying that, but their songs are relatively easy to play. To play them right, you got to be awesome. But to basically get through it on a basic guitar, not that tough. The basic chords, and it's amazing music. And you can play along with AC/DC. It's a great thing, So I encourage people to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
You got to stop pulling music out of schools. That's one issue, man. It's
man, because there's so many other benefits to it. So many other benefits. It's really great. Yeah. Well, alrighty then.
All right. Well, hey, Billy, thank you so much.
Really,
my pleasure, gentlemen, and thank you everyone that joined us here tonight. And I'm sorry we didn't get to everyone's questions, but I'll just have to come back sometime.
A lot of them.
Yeah, man.
We would love to have you back.
Beautiful.
Yes, we do a late show tonight at about midnight.
Tonight, not tonight. Isn't
it's Rubble's birthday.
I know. I'm kidding. I'm
joking. Would you mind staying on with us for another minute after we end this, just to say goodbye?
Not one bit. Good.
All right, Billy Sheehan, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The crowd goes mild.
We gotta go over your social media and stuff.
How do people get in touch with you?
My website, BillySheehan.com. You can click the email me, and the email comes right to me. No secretary, no in between. I got a Facebook band site and a Facebook personal site. Personal site is full, but you can still follow me there, or just go onto my other Facebook. Again, Instagram is Billy Sheehan on bass. You can find me pretty easy. Twitter, similarly. And I read everything. I try to answer everything, and I've been pretty good at it so far. It's pretty rare that I skip anyone. So if you have a question for me or a comment or whatever else, I'm happy to hear from you and respond as quickly as possible.
Responded, Billy. He finally responded. That's why he's on the show.
I'm going to have a show in 20 years. We want to come on?
Yeah. Yes. He said yes.
Okay, I will. Right on.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Really, really quickly here. Let me just say thank you to our executive producers, Charles Green, Mike Neese, Robbie Johnston, Connor Johnson, 5150, Music Therapy Laz, Michael Smith,
the captain.
Thank you to the channel members, Hal Face, James Gum, Mr. BHB Jr., Frag 5150, Frank Corcoran, Thomas Santiago, Fender Guru, Music Therapy Laz, Ghost, BC Rich, Hugh Caldwell, Jim Nicholas, Connor Johnson, 5150. Oh, let me breathe. Charles Green, Fruitcake Tony, Charlie S., Mike Neese, Mickey Settlemeyer, Lenny Lou, Bozique, Robbie Johnston, False Flag, David Ennis, and Michael Smith. And next week, we have Greg Renoff.
Yay.
You know Greg, right, Billy?
Yeah, he did amazing interviews for the Eat 'em and Smile article he did. He's a wonderful guy, a great guy. His Van Halen book is awesome.
Yes, Van Halen Rising. And he's got a new book, a book about Ted Templeman.
I pre-ordered it.
Awesome. And the following week, we have Tyler Morris, guitarist. And he's amazing.
Great.
So, all right, everybody hang on. And we'll be right back. Billy, we'll be right back. All right.
All righty.
Thank you, everybody. See you guys tomorrow night. Johnny Beane TV.